The Champions League Final. The MLB All-Star Game. The World Series. The Pac-12 Championship. The Big Ten Championship. The NFC Playoffs. And the Daytona 500. The world's biggest events are on Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports!
Hey y'all, it's racing day, so light out here, I can't hear a thing. Man, the fans are going wild. And these drivers came to rock, and no place else but Fox knows how to do it NASCAR style.
Boogity, boogity, boogity! Let's go racing,
And
boys!
it's, hey now, here we go, race day. Don't you be going slow. Keep that pedal down on the floor. Push it till the crowd can't take no more. Big hair sets the flag game down. Be here to the last lap around. Worked all week, it's time to play. Gonna get a little bit sideways. Hair sets the flag game down. Be here to the last lap around. Worked all week, it's time to play. Gonna get a little bit sideways.
Dover, Delaware, a 1 mile track, and it may not be big enough for the both of them. Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch. What's next? Who's next? They'll meet here on the Monster Mile. Time for the NASCAR on Fox pre-race show delivered by Pizza Hut. And the weather, not bad. 50% chance of rain, temperature in the low 70s, but the feuding at an all-time high. And today you'll be ringside and have the best seat in the house. This is what everybody's talking about. Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch each fined $25,000, placed on probation until June 15th for actions detrimental to racing after the wild finish last week in Darlington. NASCAR has met twice with both drivers, and at the moment the feelings are still wrong.
It's kind of one lie after another.
Not lying about anything.
When you hook somebody in the right rear quarter panel, that's the equivalent as throwing your gloves off in hockey.
Apparently he's watching too much hockey.
The 18 team not backing him up. I mean, when you don't have a backbone, how can you back somebody up?
As far as us getting along, I'm not sure we ever really did.
With that as the backdrop, the lines are drawn for today's race. Hi, Chris Myers, and glad you're with us. We're inside the Hollywood Hotel for the 11th race of a season that has been unpredictable and at times unbelievable. And two guys, as always, never afraid to mix it up, Darrell Waltrip and Jeff Hammond. We're talking...
He's not talking to us. I know he's not. Wrong, yeah.
I mean, both Harvick and Busch, two-time winners, championship contenders. How do they approach today, this race, this incident? How does it affect them?
You know, Chris, I've heard drivers this week question Boys Have At It more than any time before, and mainly because of the fines that came down. Where are the lines, and what does all this mean? I've heard a lot of questions asked this week. We don't have the answers yet.
And the thing is right now, guys, I think as far as those drivers are concerned, I believe what NASCAR did, as long as they didn't touch the points, I don't think it really worries these drivers about what's going on as far as the racetrack. They can handle the monetary fines. They just don't want to lose the points.
Is it over between these two?
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, one of them wants to, he's an instigator, and the other one kind of wants to let it go. We'll see where it goes today. It's going to be close racing. They'll be together sometime or another, I guarantee you.
All right, a check on the other headlines in NASCAR as we count you down to today's race. Saturday, washed away the qualifying under the new system for the first time. The starting order set by fastest practice speeds rather than car owner points. So Jimmy Johnson is on the pole. And this week, Johnson named America's most influential athlete by Forbes. Carl Edwards, the points leader. Crazy wreck yesterday. Clint Boyer went airborne. Carl Edwards will start 13th today as Carl won yesterday. Kyle Busch, after Friday's engine change, will start at the back of the pack in today's race as Kyle says, hey, the weather's okay. There's Denny Hamlin standing by as Joe Gibbs' teammate. Here's what's around the turn. Who better to talk to than the latest NASCAR's bad boys? We'll hook up with Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick to get their take on what went down and what's coming up. Speaking of feuds, we'll take a cruise down memory lane and revisit some of the best fights of all time. And Darrell is all revved up about Boys Have At It, and how he's revved up may surprise you. It's all straight ahead on Fox.
Next.
And we welcome Kevin Harvick, driver of the 29 Budweiser car, getting ready from down on the track. Kevin, thanks for being with us. Is it over between you and Kyle Busch?
Well, I don't think it's ever over, but I think right now, I think the main thing is, we go out and race for what we need to work on today, and that's this race is an important race for us because of the championship implications that it means at the end of the year during the chase. So for us, this is an important day, and we need to be smart about what we do, and obviously, being on probation and doing the things that we have to do there to be smart about it. So we got to look at the big picture and do the right things so we can have the right notes for the end of the year.
Hey, Harv, it's DW, and that's not Kyle's bus behind you there, is it? No, that's not what I wanted to ask you. You got 2 wins. Does that give you some freedom to go out there on Sunday and Saturday night and be a little more aggressive with your driving style?
Well, the empty slot is where it probably was, but they had to move it. So kind of like last week, we had to drive off. But I think as you look towards this week, and you look towards Charlotte, and you look towards some of the races coming up. They're races that are in the chase, and they're important for us to understand what package we need to have in our car that's got the most speed, whether I like it or don't like it, and it lasts through the race. So I think with the way that the points are this year, I think you can, with the position that we're in, I think you can afford to take some chances and do some things. It's really about winning races and learning what we need to for the last 10 weeks.
Kevin, last week we saw that your team, they really rallied around behind you after that incident. Have you had to try to calm them down a little bit so they can get refocused on what needed to be done?
Not really. Those guys, there's not any of us that wouldn't lay in front of a bus for each other. It's a great bunch of people that have been around the sport for a long time. We've been together in the company for a long time, and that's just how we are. We're all a bunch of guys that like to race, but that'll stand up for what we believe in. And, we're not scared to show that. It's just who we are. So it's a great bunch of people that will do anything for each other.
And we got to wrap things up. Kyle is coming up next. Anything you want us to relay to him, Kevin?
Good luck today.
All right. Same to you. Thanks for being a good sport. All right, we'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Look at that smile.
All right, Kevin Harvick with us. And so now we welcome Kyle Busch, driver of the 18 Toyota. And Kyle, thanks for doing this. We just talked to Kevin Harvick. He said he wishes you luck today, but it's not over between you two. Your thoughts?
Don't really care. It's just, for me, it's about getting to the racetrack and doing the best we can there. We know we have a good shot here today at trying to make sure that we can win another race and solidify ourselves for the chase and, get down in there and take our M&M's Camry and win this thing. So, I feel like we've got a really good car, like I said, and the rest is history.
Hey, Cal, I just made this observation. Do you think there's some sort of rivalry between your team and Kevin's team, company to company? Is there something going on there?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I think it's just, maybe it's just one person's doing a lot of stuff because it seemed to happen last year, between all 3 of the Joe Gibbs Racing teams. And, again, it's kind of starting again this year. So, to us, we don't worry about those things. We just try to handle what we can handle on our side. And that's to be the best competitors we can be, the cleanest competitors we can be, and knowing how to go out there and race on the racetrack. Sometimes we have, hurt feelings and wrinkled fenders and stuff like that. But, that's just a part of what this sport is and what the product is.
Now, Kyle, you mentioned how the team needed to race. Is this an influence by Joe Gibbs, the owner? What does Joe have to say about this incident and how it's kind of playing out?
Well, I think you'll know that Joe, in any instances that we've had in the past, that his first and foremost thoughts is what's going to make us run better on the racetrack. It's not about winning verbal wars or about winning fights off the racetrack. That doesn't do anything for you. That doesn't make your sponsors happy. That doesn't get you to victory lane any easier. It doesn't do any of that. So our first and foremost thoughts of what we need to do to move forward is to go out there and perform to our abilities and make sure that we can get M&M's to victory lane or Doublemint or Snickers or Interstate Batteries, whoever it might be, and make sure those guys are behind us as well, and that they follow through with our initiatives and our forms of how we want to race, and so far everything's been really good.
And to wrap things up, drivers have said you're aggressive, but you're not dirty. Where is the line clear to you, Kyle, and other drivers out on the track?
I don't know the question.
About how aggressive you can be before you cross the line, or has NASCAR emphasized that?
Well, I think, racing hard in the last 5 laps and, for my initial contact with Kevin down the backstretch, I mean, that's hard racing. That had no intentions of getting out of hand or getting dirty or anything like that. It was just I come off of turn 2, didn't quite get the room I expected to get, so I ran into the guy. I didn't mean to, but after that, it seemed to get a little out of hand. I got retaliated against right away in turn 3 and bumped, and then down the front stretch, things seemed to transpire, and I got rubbed on again and cut my left rear tire. But, things have moved on, and I'm hoping that we can put all this behind us. At least, we have, and we're trying to move forward. It seems things kind of keep getting spun up or stirred up, but maybe not from our side. So hopefully we can go out there today, have a good, strong run, and maybe win this thing, and just kind of prove that we know where our priorities lie.
All right, thanks, Kyle. Good luck today.
No problem.
Coming up, a look at feuds past and present. You're watching the NASCAR on Fox pre-race show delivered by Pizza Hut live from Dover, Delaware. NASCAR on Fox pre-race show is delivered by Pizza Hut at Pizza Hut. Get any pizza, any size, any toppings for one amazingly low price when you carry out. Getting ready to go 400 miles here in Dover. Martin Truex Jr. from nearby New Jersey. And there's Carl Edwards, always seems to be around at the last lap. And Denny Hamlin, 8 wins last year, looking for that first this time around. Our Pizza Hut standings where our guys predict the race. Darrell Waltrip has moved into the lead for the first time this year, followed by Jeff, Larry, Mike, and fans. Let's go upstairs, see who Larry and Mike are thinking about today, guys.
Well, Darrell always says don't ignore the blind obvious, Chris, and since he is leading this thing, I better take his advice. Jimmy Johnson's won 3 out of the last 4 here. That's pretty obvious to me.
And DW, I speak from experience. There's a little downside to being the leader. Everybody picks your driver before they get to you. I know my man's never had a top 5 finish here, but 2 consecutive top 5 finishes the last 2 races. It's all about Casey Kane and that 4 group today.
Well, right now, I'm really believing the guy who's leading the points could help me get back into the point lead. So I'm going to go with the 99 of Carl Edwards.
I set old Larry up. I'm going with Dale Jr. today. I'll tell you, that streak's got to end somewhere. Races. It's going to end here today. I promise you.
It would be a great moment.
You promised.
You can log on to foxsports.com/Pizza Hut and vote for the driver that you think will win, and you'll have a chance to win a trip to next year's Daytona 500 on Fox. And watch for updates in the race and see who is the fan favorite Pizza Hut driver. And if we held a fan vote for your favorite feud in NASCAR history, it'd be too difficult to count all the nominees. Fortunately, Darrell has a pretty good memory, and we have the video proof to back him up.
Feuds have been in NASCAR since the beginning of the sport. Look at this. The 1979 Daytona 500. The feud, the fight that put us on the map. Hey, I know you're not going to believe this, but I was even in a few of them back in my time. You know what I like? I like the way my team had my back. This is a team sport. But hey, just because it's a team sport doesn't mean that teammates can't have a little go of it.
48 is testing my patience, I can tell you that.
Hey, put him in the wall!
Somebody better keep me away from Denny Hamlin after this race. I swear to God, I'm going to kill the
Now look, you know if you race long enough, you're probably going to ruffle up a few feathers.
They're going at it, guys. I mean, literally. And Jimmy Spencer forgot about what he did to me at Phoenix last year.
Some guys have to learn. They just have to learn the hard way.
And the 99 has turned over Brad Keselowski.
It's not cool to intentionally wreck somebody at 195 mile an hour.
That looks so much like Edwards' turnover at Talladega off the bumper of Keselowski.
Well, Brad knows the deal between him and I.
And that brings us to last week. And oh, by the way, it was not their first run-in.
Over. Oh, man, he just spun us.
He raced me like a clown all day.
He's such a two-faced guy, it just doesn't matter.
Hey, these two guys aren't shy. I mean, after all, Kyle's nickname is Rowdy.
Kyle Busch is an ass. Here he comes.
It's situations like this that makes happy.
Well, it's good stuff. No matter who, I know the Brad Keselowski grabbing the PA. You were hysterical. Just call it out.
The whole thing is it's amazing, and it's going to continue. There's a lot of pressure on these guys to win races right now, and that pressure's getting to them.
And it is genuine. These guys, right? They're not putting it on.
No, they're not putting it on, Chris. I can promise you that. The thing about it is, I'm trying to figure out, as far as D-Dib is concerned, is he the promoter or is he the instigator here? Because it looks to me like you brought a lot of stuff in there and kind of mixed it all together.
Well, hey, it's reality. I didn't make any of that up.
Right.
Every bit of that happened.
You just enhanced it a little bit.
I didn't encourage any of it.
All right, we'll see what happens today. Meanwhile, to a more calmer sport, in Delaware this week, Dollar General made a contribution of more than $1 million to Autism Speaks to help fund research. Our NASCAR on Fox director Artie Kempner and his family led a group of people with big hearts who over the last decade have raised over $3.5 million.
We're here for a great day. We're here for a rewarding day. And that's all thanks to you people out here.
We've been coming here 10 years. It's gotten better every year. They raise more money every year. And when it comes to autism research, there's a lot of good things going on right now.
Well, this is a fun tournament, and it's for a great cause. And you get together with people to make a difference.
You can connect to those kids and those families.
At the end of the day, I mean, it's about trying to help other people out. I love playing golf. This weekend especially is special because we're going to have the Drive for Autism on the hood of our car this weekend.
This is also a good way to do it because I think even if you stink at it like I do, it's still fun to come out and golf.
I'm starting to get into this golf thing that I really don't know what I'm doing still, but I'm having fun. We didn't bring 4 good golfers.
No offense, I'm just being honest, right?
I just love this tournament. I like coming here to the DuPont Country Club. It makes Dover fun.
NASCAR always lending a helping hand, just as last week's the first time winner Regan Smith's mother was doing. Lee in Alabama helping rescue dogs when Regan won that wild finish in Darlington. As we welcome back live here in Dover, time for Gas and Go. We have questions, they have answers. You're on the clock. Darrell, points leader Carl Edwards finishing second to both Regan Smith and Trevor Bayne this year. Last week, should he have been more aggressive on that final lap?
You know what? I think Carl may have underestimated his competition. At Daytona, I think he looked up there and he said, that's just that kid. He's never won a race. I'll get right by him. Then I think last week at Darlington, he had tires Regan didn't. I think that he thought he'd blow right by Regan. I think in both cases, he may have underestimated his competition.
Still has the great points lead. Jeff, Dale Earnhardt Jr. called a team meeting to apologize to his pit crew. They could have had a top 5 or 6 finish because of a mistake by Jr. They wound up 14th last week. What does that tell us?
I think it tells us that what kind of leader he has really turned into. I mean, this team believes in him. I've talked to several team members, and they said, believe it or not, Jeff, he is really focused. He cares about us, and I think this is a further example how he's trying to pull these guys together to keep moving forward.
All right, Darrell, for you, Dover, is this a good race to judge Jimmie Johnson? We heard Mike Joy predict, hey, he's won 3 out of the last 4. He's second in points so far this year.
This team always amazes me. Chad and Jimmy, they're always above the fray. They don't get in controversies. And when things go bad, last week he spun out twice, had trouble in the pits, still came back with a 15th place finish. This team is as composed as any team I've ever seen.
All right, and for both of you here, I'll start with you, Jeff. We've seen the driver feuds. Who should we watch for next? Who's going to have the next volcanic eruption?
I'm thinking right now that anybody that kind of crosses Brad Keselowski, because after yesterday's race, I mean, he was mad at Kyle Busch, he was mad at Carl Edwards. I'm believing right now that Brad is not afraid to mix it up with anybody that doesn't race him straight up.
Yeah, I think Brad and Carl, just like last week, Brad was bragging about keeping Carl from winning that race. And yesterday he blamed Carl for the race at the end of that race yesterday. So Brad and Carl, I keep an eye on those two.
All right, good stuff. Gets Gas and Go, and I think we join Revved Up already in progress because you're fired up about all the feuding.
Well, I am, and you know what I'm revved up about? The boys have at it. Now, I love the concept. Let the drivers police themselves, show off their personalities, and, yeah, build some rivalries, all without the fear of NASCAR looking over everyone's shoulder all the time. Sounds like a perfect situation, right? Well, sort of. And here's my problem. My driver buddies are abusing their newfound freedoms. Now, I love it when drivers push and shove each other around. Aggressive racing is what made this sport fun to watch. But lately, and all too often, the drivers are using what I call the hook. That's when a driver sticks his right front into another driver's left rear to intentionally wreck him. Now, folks, that's just wrong. What happened to sportsmanship? Remember, guys, respect begets respect. Come on, guys. You're the greatest drivers in the world. You got millions of fans watching us every week. They don't want to see cheap shots. NASCAR's giving you a chance to work things out on your own. Don't blow it. Remember, if you abuse, have at it. NASCAR is going to say one of these days, boys, we've had it. And we don't want that to happen. And that's what I'm revved up about today.
Wow, the hook. Speaking of the hook, you got to go.
I'm going to give you the hook.
You got to go upstairs to call the race, and we'll have more in a moment. The crowd here excited for the 42nd annual FedEx 400 benefiting autism. Jimmy Johnson is on the pole, and let's head down to the track.
Race fans, would you please rise? I'd like to introduce you to the Military District of Washington Armed Forces Color Guard joining us here on the stage today. And for today's invocation, Mr. Dan Schaefer, pastor of the Calvary Assembly of God in Hightstown, New Jersey.
Shall we pray? Almighty God, we pause this day to thank you for this great country, the United States of America. We thank you those who have given themselves that we might have the freedom to have the greatest sport in the world, racing. We pray soon that you will send them home, that they will come home safe. We pray for their protection. And now we thank you for Dover International Speedway. We thank you for all the teams. We thank you for all the drivers. Now we ask you, as we always do, for a great race, for a safe race. In Christ's name, amen.
Please remain standing as once again A&M Octone recording artist, Miss Willie Brown, for today's anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Willie Brown and the F-16s.
It's been a crazy year so far. 39-year-old Jeff Gordon has been a winner, along with Matt Kenseth, Trevor Bayne, a 20-year-old winner, and a couple of two-time winners in Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. Good here in Dover, Delaware, and a scene from Google Earth, Dover International Speedway. That's where we're located, a mile concrete track known as the Monster Mile. And before we go down to the command, you look at Tony Stewart, who has had chances to win this year, frustrated, but he has won on this track before. And Jeff, as we look at the field here, guys that are starting back because qualifying rained out on the new adjustment.
Well, there's two of them right there, Denny Hamlin and Tony Stewart, along with his teammate Ryan Newman and Jamie McMurray. This new qualifying procedure has got them deep in the field, Chris, and I'm really looking for Jimmy Johnson with that clear racetrack to be coming at him really quick, trying to get these guys down a lap if he can. So I'm looking for these back markers. They're not really back markers. They're going to be running hard to try to get to the front and stay away from Jimmy Johnson.
Now, we mentioned a mile track. We haven't had a pole sitter win this year, but now Jimmy Johnson is on the pole for today's race.
Well, kind of like by default, but at the same time, he's so good here. I mean, that's the thing, is 3 out of the last 4 races, he's won. So don't be one bit surprised if he winds up winning.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., he was picked by our Darrell Walter, the Pizza Hut prediction to win, and he's gone 103 straight races without a victory, but he is in the top 5 in points and hoping to make the chase for the Sprint Cup Championship. He would certainly love a good run today here in Dover.
Our Grand Marshal today is Jacob Boenzi, an 11-year-old with autism and the guest of FedEx. Jacob is joined by Mark Rothmar, president of Autism Speaks, to give today's command.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
People of all ages excited
That's
about
exactly
the
right.
race today. 43 drivers as we head up to the booth with Mike, Larry, and Darrell. And Mike, maybe 43 feuds or more by the time it's over.
Oh, at least. There's plenty of room for more. Dover has long been one of our favorite places to come. Dennis McGlynn and his folks have great hospitality. We love the crab cakes and the concrete. Racing this track is like a giant serving bowl, and you and your car are the rock at the end of the string, just whirling around here 400 times. It's a tough place.
Well, it is, and it's a fast place. When you think about this being a 1 mile racetrack and the speeds that these drivers run here, they look at it as one of the fastest tracks on the circuit. One driver said this week, think about running 200 miles an hour down the hallway in your house. But I think the one thing about it, the driver that goes to victory lane, he knows he's going to have to put both hands and both feet up on that steering wheel for 400 miles.
So, Darrell, given this place is banked, even on the straightaways, more than the corners of some tracks, and how narrow it is, what other perils and pitfalls should we look for?
Well, y'all pretty well nailed it. I mean, with the high speeds, it's physically demanding, and you've got to keep your focus. This is what we call a self-cleaning racetrack. If you bump into somebody here, it's catastrophic. That car spins, it goes down the hill, it hits the inside wall. Usually takes a lot of cars with it. So, got to maintain that focus. You got to stay up on the wheel because this race is fast and it goes by quick.
And as we saw in yesterday's race, you have to stay out of somebody else's trouble. That happens a lot here. 400 miles on the Monster at Dover, next on Fox.
And it's hey now, here we go. Gonna get a little bit excited.
NASCAR on Fox in Dover, Delaware, Dover International Speedway for the FedEx 400, benefiting Autism Speaks. The sun broke through this morning for just a little bit. Now it is completely cloudy. However, the weather radar says only a 10% chance of rain through 3 o'clock, increasing to 30% through the rest of the afternoon. So we're sure hopeful of 400 miles this afternoon. Jimmie Johnson, 6-time Dover winner, and A.J. Allmendinger, who led over 100 laps here last September, have the front row. The starting lineup set by practice times from Friday with Earnhardt and Kane in row 2. Logano, top 10 finishes in both races here last year. Kurt Busch, only one top 10 in his last 6 races. Past winner here, Martin Truex, along with Kyle Busch, a 2-time Dover winner. Brad Keselowski, 3rd at Darlington, best finish since his Talladega win. And Kevin Harvick. Regan Smith, last week's winner, got his first win ever in the Cup Series. And Greg Biffle, who won here in 08. Carl Edwards and David Reagan, teammates, back in row 7. Brian Vickers and Jeff Burton will be row 8. And let's go to the front row, DW.
So we get A.J. A.J. Allmendinger, it's a DW here. You got a copy? I think that was a yes. Hey, buddy, starting on that front row, it's this one of your favorite tracks. What makes you so good here, man?
I mean, I think you can be aggressive around this racetrack. You can, with the banking and the high speeds, you can really let the car flow into the corners and carry a lot of speed. And, you know, be a little bit more aggressive on this racetrack than others. So it's just a fun place. I've always liked it since I showed up in the Sprint Cup Series, and just really enjoyed here.
Well, that 43 car has been to Victory Circle a bunch of times, buddy. Can you do it today? I think that might be a no.
No, I think we just lost signal.
Oh, actually, it was a big yes.
That was another yes. Today's race is brought to you by Budweiser, the beer that starts with full flavor and ends with a crisp, fast finish. Great times are waiting. Grab some Buds. Well, let's get downstairs on this cloudy day to a noisy pit road and begin with Steve Burns.
Thank you, Mike. This race could be a big measuring stick as to just how far back Dale Earnhardt Jr. has come. He has a win here, but in his last 6 starts, his average finish is 24th. Cautiously optimistic, but we'll see how good he does today, Matt Yoakum.
Steve, it's definitely been a drama-filled week in Candyland. Kyle Busch told me the biggest challenge and concern for him today is simply the obstacles that lay ahead because he starts at the back. The big cause for concern is simple. When you look at history, only 3 times has a guy started worse than 19th and gone to victory lane, and that's in 4.5 decades of racing here at Dover. Keep an eye on the 18. Dick Berggren?
Jeff Gordon has a terrific record here. He has won 4 times, led 2,230 laps, more than any other driver, and although he starts 21st in the middle of the pack, he told me moments ago he has a car to win the race. Krista Voda.
The Denver Broncos only won 4 times last year. Regan Smith is already a quarter of the way there, and the city is rallying behind its most recent winner, Regan Smith. Several articles posted in the Denver Post this week, from the Mile High City to the Monster Mile. Regan Smith says he has a very good car here again this week.
And what a popular win, Krista, that was last Saturday night in Darlington. Darrell, it's been a long time since I've seen so many drivers not affiliated with the winner come to victory lane and offer congratulations.
Well, that just tells you something about that kid. He's a great kid, and he is really, he's paid his dues. And when you can win a race as big as the Southern 500, I think everybody really appreciates you.
Today, in the concrete canyons of Dover, they'll go 400 miles, and that is exactly 400 laps. 35 down pit road, and only 1 car goes to the rear. Kyle Busch, who had an engine change. Now, NASCAR will throw a competition yellow at lap 40 due to all the rain we've had.
Yeah, this is a concrete surface, and these drivers like it when they start laying some rubber down. You'll see, you take a snapshot of this racetrack now, how white it is. 100 laps into it, it'll be black, but yeah, just precautionary. That caution on lap 40, you can't fuel the car until that caution.
You see how banked even the straightaway is here at Dover as they roll off into turn number 3. For 400 miles in the FedEx 400, benefiting Autism Speaks.
Yeah, this is a tense time right here. Everybody's bunched up, sitting on ready, hadn't had a lot of practice. Boogity, boogity, boogity! Let's go racing, boys!
Jimmie Johnson will come off turn 4 and lead for the 8th straight race at Dover from Allmendinger, Earnhardt, and Logano. And into the wall, Brian Vickers.
Coming outside.
No yellow.
Here, we're good. Just a 24, just a 24.
Yeah, you got
Vickers is mid-pack. He continues alongside Jeff Gordon.
Little contact down that left side, but looks like he can continue on. Let's see what happened here, Larry. Looked like he was trying to stay off of Kevin Harvick and had to really make an evasive move and got him into that inside wall. Not too hard. He's really fortunate.
This look may show if there was any contact.
I think it was just Harvick got loose. Maybe they made a little contact that shot Brian Vickers in the 83 into that inside wall, but I think he's okay.
But neither Reagan nor Biffle turned him from behind. He might have been just trying to stay off of Harvick.
Could have been a very close call. This track widens out in the corners and then funnels down, especially on the exit of the corner.
Yesterday, the first caution flag was in turn 3 of lap 1. Single file through the first half of the field. With Jimmie Johnson out in front of Allmendinger and Earnhardt.
And that 48 was like he was shot out of a cannon on the start of this race. But, Larry, I know you said it, and a lot of guys in the garage are saying it. That 43 car, don't take him lightly today.
No, he sat on the outside of the front row in the September race and led 143 laps and had an issue on pit road, finished 10th.
7th place, Carl Edwards jumps under Regan Smith, and the the points leader moves up a spot. Edwards.
Boy, that was close too between Kurt Busch in the 22 and Kevin Harvick. They almost came together as they came off the turn 4.
Right behind them, the little bumping banging continues. A lot of action early here in Dover. Martin Truex got kicked up to the high side. 2 cars went by. Now from Kevin Harvick's bumper, let's look at Kurt Busch.
Yep. Wow. Kurt got that outside wall. Ricocheted off of it just a little bit. You'll see it right here. Gets it a little bit loose and then dives to the left there, and there was Kevin Harvick in the Budweiser car closing fast.
That's 2 close calls for Kevin Harvick already.
We'll get him all stirred up before the racing gets going good.
Jeff Gordon battles Marcus Ambrose, 17th position.
And Larry, I do believe Kevin is one of those kind of guys. You got to, as a crew chief and a spotter, you got to come on the radio and say, just calm down. Let's get that behind. We got a long way to go. Don't let that affect us.
David Reagan inside Kurt Busch.
Look at Kurt Busch in that 22 car. We had the 2 practices on Friday. He and his teammate Brad Keselowski in the 2, they were the fastest cars, but the car goes way up the hill there in 1 and 2, just lost grip.
We saw that a lot in both the truck race and yesterday's race, and oftentimes it meant a flat right front tire and a trip into the wall.
That and then attacking the corner. I mean, you want to really drive down in these corners hard, but there's a point in there where it's a diminishing return. The front end won't hold it. The car takes off.
I think what we have to remember, most of these drivers, they have not been on this racetrack since Friday. Now, the guy that won the race yesterday, Carl Edwards in that 99, he keeps moving forward, started 11th. He's about to crack the top 5. But this racetrack is totally different for these guys today than we had on Friday from the standpoint. The rubber's been washed off, plus 2 races.
Let's take a look back for Kyle Busch. Remember, he had to start last due to the engine change. They had valve train problems in Friday practice. So he started shotgun on the field, 43rd, and has passed 12 cars.
There might have been a time back in the day when you said, oh, well, you don't have to worry about him. He's starting in the back. Not anymore.
No.
He will be up there before the day's over, you know.
Look at the shadows as the sun pokes through in turn 3.
That's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
Didn't expect that today. We'll see how it affects things. Kevin Harvick, Regan Smith, 8th and 9th. Kane in front of them. Edwards 6th. Keselowski 5th. Logano 4th. And in 3rd, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Steve?
Mike, the early report from Dale Earnhardt Jr. is his car is just a little bit tight. Crew Chief Steve Letarte said, hey, be a little bit conservative here, but let's just keep communicating. Let me know what that race car is doing.
Yeah, a little bit tight could turn into a big problem, because as the track gets a little rubber on it and gets a little bit slicker, you're going to start abusing that right front tire. Tire buildup here is huge, something you really got to monitor and keep up with.
And now turns 3 and 4 are in full sunshine. What kind of difference does that make?
Well, as in any racing surface, when the sun starts beating down on it, it changes the characteristics. It actually loses a little bit of grip. But I will say this, the concrete surfaces versus an asphalt surface, it's not as temperamental to temperature swings as an asphalt surface.
Kurt Busch continues to drop from his 6th starting position, now at 18th and under fire from Jeff Gordon. Then Clint Bowyer, and the black car is Matt Kenseth.
Mike, that's a huge surprise. The way the 22 and the 2 practiced here on Friday, I thought they had it all figured out. I thought they would be real serious contenders today. Right now, he's got his hands full with that 22 car.
Steve, what's up?
Well, the problem for Kurt Busch is he is tight all the way through the turns, Mike Joy. They're already talking about taking a spring rubber out and dropping the track bar when they stop on pit road.
Daryl, Steve, some of these drivers may have been lured into the fact with the rain washing the rubber off, as we keep talking about, that the track was going to be loose, and they started the race tight, and maybe now it's too tight.
I think you're right, Larry.
Jeff Gordon, based on your votes, is today's Pizza Hut fan favorite. Currently in 18th. Jeff started 19th, gained a few, lost a few spots in the early going here. 17 laps in. Caution free, although Brian Vickers bounced off the inside wall on lap 1.
Just follow up quickly on what Larry was saying. You don't want to start this race loose, because you can't drive a loose car here. You'll wreck it.
Jimmie Johnson leading from the pole in Dover.
Catch the Dominator if you can. To be continued on NASCAR on Fox.
Bad luck for the Connecticut kid in Dover. Joey Logano was running fourth. He finished top 10 in both Dover races last year. And coming up off turn 2, the car gets away from it.
That's what this racetrack will do to you. If your car's a little bit loose, you're coming up out of that hole. Right there, you're coming up out of the turn, up on the straightaway. Car gets a little bit light.
Say hi, say hi.
Now she goes. Dirt car coming out of there.
Logano was running fourth. Tires blowing out as they slide across.
Look at all that rubber that the tires are laying down as that thing skid along there.
Greg Zipadelli talking to his crew about what repairs he wants to make. The first 13 cars stayed on the racetrack. Jeff Burton, running 14th, was the first of the cars that pitted. So in all, 18 cars stayed on the racetrack and did not pit. Remember, we have a competition yellow coming at lap 40. Everyone will get to pit. Today's Ford F-150 EcoBoost track facts. Richard Petty raced a Ford to victory lane. A Ford, yes, in the first ever Dover Cup race, 1969. The first fastest 400-mile race at Dover when they reduced the length of the race. Mark Martin, September 97. And the Monster Bridge has 56 theater-style seats that had the best view of all. Joey Logano's spin. There is the Monster Bridge, located over the entrance of turn 3, looking up the back straightaway.
I like it. Everything here is a monster. Yeah, Monster Bridge, Monster Mile, Miles the Monster. Must be a bad place.
Now, just to set up this strategy here, when you look at our top 19 drivers, as you mentioned, Mike, they stayed out. They know we've got a caution coming in about 15 laps. Obviously, those drivers that pitted, they needed some adjustments, but the other thing they could accomplish by coming to pit road now, when we get that caution at lap 40, they may hit pit road for fuel only and get a bunch of track position back over these drivers right here that we know will probably pit for 4 tires and fuel.
Now, this is interesting to see how this works out, because as I watched yesterday's race, drivers are really confused about, do I want to restart on the outside? Do I want to restart on the inside? And we see Jimmie Johnson is elected to take the outside here. Momentum on the outside, a little shorter route around the inside. See how it works out.
Kurt Busch's crew pulled a spring rubber, trying to get his handling back on track. He will restart 23rd. Kyle Busch, who started this race last, will restart 24th. They were among the cars that pitted at lap 21. The first 13 stayed out, led by Johnson, Allmendinger, Earnhardt, Edwards, Keselowski, Harvick, Kane, Regan Smith, Reagan and Biffle. Those are your top 10 as we get ready to restart, completing lap 24. Green flag.
Yeah, AJ didn't get a real good start there, Larry. I'm not sure he didn't spin the tires a little bit. That allowed Jimmie Johnson to shoot out, and here comes Carl around the outside.
Carl Edwards,
you'll get him.
In that 99 is not playing around. Started back in the 11th position. Here he is up in the top 3 already, the winner from yesterday.
Yeah, he had a fast car here yesterday, and I think that's got to be a benefit to him. He's been on the racetrack. Some of these guys haven't been on the track since Friday.
During that caution, Andy Lally got the free pass, and Joey Logano, despite the repairs, is 1 lap down. Mike Skinner is 3 laps back. Only 1 caution so far. At lap 26, Kyle has picked up 19 spots since the start of the race. His teammate Denny Hamlin has gained 10 up to the 16th position. Here's Hamlin inside of Montoya. Down to pit road, Krista.
Marcus Ambrose is on the move. He started 18th. He is currently running in the top 10. Remember, you guys mentioned that A.J. Allmendinger would be strong based on trends at this track. So is his teammate. Right now, he's just a little loose.
4 drivers in the top 25 in points have yet to go to victory lane. There are 2 of them. David Reagan and Marcus Ambrose. Paul Menard and A.J. Allmendinger are the others, and they're all threats.
Yeah, I think, if I'm Marcos, I say, fix my car just like that car we see right there at 43. Looks like he knows how to get around here pretty good.
Carl Edwards makes the pass on Allmendinger and moves up to second, 1.2 seconds behind race leader Jimmie Johnson.
Darrell, it almost looks like a roller coaster ride when they come up out of that hole onto that straightaway off turn 4.
And let me tell you, when you come up out of that corner, Your car is headed for that wall, and it's like herding cats, man. You got to fight that thing to get it back down on the inside.
Best way for Kevin Harvick to stay out of trouble, get out front and stay there. He's on the way. Harvick started 10th. His Bud Chevy is up to 3rd. Carl Edwards came in here as the point leader after yesterday's victory. He's come from 11th to 1st, and all day so far everyone's been chasing Jimmie Johnson.
The FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks on Fox is sponsored by FedEx. We understand you need reliable shipping solutions. FedEx. By Coca-Cola. Open a Coke and enjoy the race. And by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
Welcome back to the FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks. 37 laps complete. Mike Skinner's taken his number 16 to the garage. Joey Logano 1 lap down after bringing out the race's only caution so far with a spin-off turn 2. Jimmie Johnson has led every lap. Carl Edwards has closed the gap to half a second. Harvick 3rd, Allmendinger and Earnhardt. This battle back at 27th. Ryan Newman, Paul Menard, Casey Mears.
Look at Ryan Newman in that 39 car, a lot like his teammate and owner Tony Stewart in the 14. They just couldn't find speed here on Friday. They ran a lot of laps, but they just were not fast.
Yeah, you know, I'm looking at it. Speaking of fast, the lap times on those first 5 cars, they're all just within a few hundredths of each other. Carl's gained a little wee bit on Jimmie Johnson, but not much.
There's your lead. Johnson's advantage shrinking as he begins to work into some race traffic. That's David Stremme in the number 30 moving aside. And look at Carl close just like that.
Yeah, I think Jimmie was being real cautious with a 30 car there. I mean, we're coming to, you know, we're getting ready for the competition yellow. Don't want to push anything real hard right here.
In the drivers' meeting, NASCAR announced that due to the rain on Saturday and the change of the racetrack since the drivers were last on it on Friday, they would throw a yellow flag at lap 40. Here it is, and that will allow the teams the opportunity to know going into the race that they will have an early chance to make adjustments.
Well, and I applaud NASCAR for doing this. They did this in yesterday's race because you do not want to have a right front tire issue at this racetrack because you hit that wall hard.
So what will they do? Let's start with the leaders pit, Matt.
And Mike Sidley for Jimmie Johnson. His car with that clean air just a tick on the free side all the way through the corner, but he says it's good being free. Not expecting a lot of adjustments for Jimmie. Steve?
And same thing for Carl Edwards in the 99, Matt. He said his car is really turning good. He said to his crew chief Bob Osborne, just think about overall balance. Meanwhile, Kevin Harvick, he says he's lost a little bit of the rear grip he had when the run started. Krista?
Regan Smith very descriptive on the radio saying he gets loose in traffic. They're going to make just a wedge adjustment. They thought about air pressure, just wedge to help Regan in traffic. Dick?
Will 25-year-old David Ragan be NASCAR's next first-time winner? He has picked up 4 spots since the drop of the green flag. They are going to work on the front end of the car to try to help him get into the corner better.
Keep an eye on Jeff Burton, David Rudiman, and Jeff Gordon. They could be gas only. They stopped at lap 21, and they could get a splash and scoot through.
Bad timing on the caution for Joey Logano. David Stremme in the 30 car is going to get the free pass. Logano might take the wave around, I'm not sure.
So pit road abuzz. You see the pit stalls here are concrete. The pit road is asphalt. And that presents its own challenges as everyone's going to get a full tank of Sunoco Green E15, and many of the teams are going to take on 4 fresh Goodyears.
One of the things that's confusing about pit road is that black line you see along the edge of the pit box. That is your pit box. A lot of guys confuse that line with the edge of the asphalt. Sometimes you get out of your pit box and don't know it.
Coming out here, you get very narrow as it gets 3 wide quite a bit coming out of the pit lane, and it's Carl Edwards. There is the race off pit road. We're at lap 42 of 400 in Dover.
The FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks on Fox is sponsored by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds.
Budweiser's asking fans to help choose the paint scheme. The 29 Bud Chevy will run in the July Daytona race. Vote for your favorite among 3 Independence Day themes at foxsports.com/Budweiser. Check back daily, see which paint scheme's leading the race. Mark Martin picked up a dozen spots in the pits by taking only 2 tires. We'll see how that works out as the number 5 takes the green flag in 7th place. Carl Edwards, Jimmie Johnson, your leaders.
Carl took the inside on this restart. Looks like that momentum up on the outside is giving Jimmie Johnson a chance here.
Ryan Newman and Brian Vickers also took 2 tires during the caution period. Michael McDowell stayed out to lead a lap, as did Mike Bliss. They have since pitted.
I have to believe the reason Carl Edwards chose the inside, it worked really good for him in yesterday's race.
Yeah,
he won that race.
If you can get a slight advantage, which the leader is supposed to be able to have the advantage across the line, but you see what happens here. You get pinned down, and boy, look at AJ. He was thinking about making that 3 wide going into turn 3 over there.
Carl opened up the bottom, and here comes Allmendinger with Harvick in the 29 right behind.
All right, Kevin Harvick's got a good car today. I mean, he's right there, man.
Yeah, we're riding with him. Had a couple of close calls in this 29 car before lap 10.
Now, just before the caution, Greg Biffle bounced off the wall exiting turn 4. The throttle pedal fell off, and here's what happened along pit road. Taken off the airbox to keep from losing a lap, and then they came back, Steve, and made further repairs.
And Mike, I just checked and asked if they got the throttle pedal fixed, and they said yes, we think everything's okay for now.
So Biffle is 1 lap down, along with Scott Wimmer, Joey Logano. David Stremme is 2 laps back.
And what Greg Biffle hopes is that we don't get into the same situation we did a while ago before that competition caution and the leaders start putting other drivers a lap down and he can't get that free pass.
Now, right now, he and Logano are kind of fighting for the free pass at this point.
Jimmie Johnson trying to pull away. Meanwhile, that 2-tire stop for Mark Martin worked out okay, but he has dropped 3 positions from the restart from 7th to 10th.
But Mark Martin was one of the drivers that pitted on that first caution and got the 4 tires. Alone like Kyle Busch and some of those other drivers, I felt like they would go with only 2 tires. And Kyle Busch is another one who Matt Yoakum is about to crack the top 10.
Larry Mack, a problem in practice. The car was too tight, and he slapped the wall. He just came on the radio and said, the problem is still here. Cause for concern. He said, it is plowing so badly, we will never be able to see the finish of the race unless we fix it. He just dropped the spot to 13th.
Dadgum car started dead last, only up to 12th. I got to work on this thing.
Well, and I think we only documented the fact that they had engine issues. He slapped the wall hard in that second practice. They had to make a lot of repairs to that 18 car for Kyle Busch.
Yeah, matter of fact, I heard the guy say if we'd have known it was as bad as it was, we would have gone to a backup.
Remember Las Vegas 2009 when Kyle Busch changed an engine and came from the rear to win the race. Kurt Busch, you saw there on the bottom. Looks like that car's handling better after they pulled the spring rubber. Here's Rudeman and McMurray battling for 15th.
And McMurray in the 1 was another driver that pitted on that first caution. He went with 2 right sides only on this competition caution a little bit ago.
So did that silver car with them, Brian Vickers, the 83.
Tell you what, right now, if you're going to keep up with that 48 car, you might want to change all 4 tires and the spare because he has got it in the wind, man.
But, you know, I think y'all touched on it in the pre-race, BW. I think we all knew with Jimmie Johnson and that 48 group that this was going to be a measuring stick for where they truly, truly are because they won this race from the pole in September, dominated it. And the only race they had won since that race was Talladega. They felt like this would tell them where they're at as far as speed.
Well, let's take a spin around the Monster Mile with Mr. 5-time, Jimmie Johnson's Lowe's Chevy. And fans, use your Lowe's consumer credit card to take 5% off every day.
Coming up out of turn 4, green flag in the air as head down into turn 1 and get that thing right down on the bottom right there. Now listen how quick you get back in the gas. Man, you're wide open here and it really gets tight right there. You see some marks on the wall. Got to be really holding her down there. You dive it off into 3. Again, get back to the gas. See how he works the gas? As soon as possible, you start to work the gas, trying to get it back wide open as soon as you can. That's how you make a lot of speed around this joint.
See right there in the middle of the corner, you don't fall hardly below 140 miles an hour. Watch the miles per hour. We talked about the speeds of this place. Over 170 miles an hour. This is well into a race run.
But that throttle, the throttle is the key. I mean, a lot of guys will roll in there and stay out of the gas and let the car coast, and then they'll try to get back. You've got to start getting back in the gas, even if it's slightly, to get the car going and keep that corner speed up. Middle of the corners where that 48 is so fast.
In the last 4 races at Dover, Jimmie Johnson has led the most laps in every one of them and won 3 of the 4. Kasey Kahne, Ryan Newman, 19th and 20th. Matt?
Mike, Kenny Francis and Kasey Kahne, they had a lot of concern coming in because they didn't really know what to expect. They expected the track to be tight, but then in Saturday's race, everyone complained about it being loose, so they had a lot of uncertainty because their car was right in the middle. Right now, though, he's been just battling a very loose race car on entry. Not sure what adjustments they're going to make on the next stop, but he says they definitely have got to do something.
And Darrell, if you're loose getting in the corner here, your lap is pretty much toast.
Yeah,
you can't go anywhere.
Because one of the things you got to do here, it's a fine line. You got to attack that corner. You got to get it off down in there pretty good. And if you're loose, you got to roll out early. It just kills your corner speed.
Both Richard Petty Motorsports Fords are in the top 6. Marcus Ambrose, 6th, looking for 5th. A.J. Allmendinger, 2nd, looking for the lead. Ambrose into the top 5.
That was a courtesy pass. I'll let you go now. You're a little quicker than I am.
Clint Bowyer flirted with the top 15. He's dropped to 25th, Krista.
And he was one of the guys who took just 2 tires back on lap 20. When he came in on lap 41, he said 2 tires was a bad idea. I have no grip at all, extremely loose. They made an adjustment, but he just came on the radio and said, still no grip.
2 tires is not the way to go. Now's the time to find out early.
Right about like that, maybe just a touch more.
Allmendinger is eating into Johnson's lead. It's down to 0.6 of a second.
We're matching each other lap times, though. It's pretty close.
4 different leaders today, but the only man who's led under green, that would be, well, Jimmie Johnson.
The FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks is sponsored by Ford. Drive one. By AT&T. Rethink possible. And by American Ethanol. American grown, American made. Powering NASCAR.
70 laps complete, only 2 cautions so far. You're riding with the American Ethanol onboard camera. Dale Earnhardt Jr., 6th place. 3.5 seconds behind race leader Jimmie Johnson. And Marcus Ambrose keeps coming, bringing his Ford to the inside of Kevin Harvick for 4th place.
Yeah, we've got 3 Fords up in the top 5 right now with his teammate Allmendinger in the 43 second, Carl Edwards in the 99 third. Now Ambrose in the 9 is 4th.
And Larry, I've been watching these guys, and everybody that tries to move up off the bottom, they lose a lot of time. You see Kevin up there messing around. Nobody's been able to really make that outside work yet. I think it's all that black rubber we see right on the bottom of the racetrack. It's got a ton of grip in it, and you just can't give that up right now.
If he can get a few friends to join him up there and lay a little rubber down, then he'll get some grip, you would think.
He seems to be content to ride the bottom right now.
Keselowski in 7th. Steve?
Mike, he's trying to speed up by slowing down, but he said when I back up the corner, I get a little bit too loose.
Brad Keselowski in that 2 was actually fighting a pretty severe bout with the flu a little bit earlier this week.
Boy, what a little momentum will do. Well, it'll send your car sideways right there for Regan Smith, but following up his Darlington win, he was in 6th place when the caution fell, the competition yellow, and has been in the top 10 all day here.
The driver I've been watching is making the move right now on Regan Smith in that 78. Matt Kenseth in that 17 car. Matt started back in the 24th position, and Matt says this is his favorite racetrack to come to. I think I see why.
Kenseth started this race in the 24th position. He has moved himself all the way up to the 8th spot. As is typical of this man from Wisconsin, he's not saying very much on the radio, but Kenseth's car seems to be better on the short runs rather than the long ones. This is his favorite track.
His lap times right now a little quicker than the leader. Home track advantage, Martin Truex might tell you there is. Made in New Jersey. Not that far a drive from Dover, Delaware. Let's go to his pit.
Special too, Mike, because he scored his only Sprint Cup win here. Martin just dropped down to 10th. It was loose on the competition caution. They made an adjustment. It was a special loose into turn 3. Martin just told Pat Tryson, it has gotten so much worse. Right now, he's just trying to hang on.
To the 60 of Mike Skinner back in the race. Mark Martin right behind Truex on the scoreboard in 11th place.
I think the way that what I'm seeing with the sun in and out right now, you know, some of these cars are going to go through that. Not too good when the sun's out, better when the cloud covers over the track. I think that's what some of these guys may be dealing with right now.
Keep an eye on Jeff Burton. If I said that 3 times today, I'll probably say it 10 more. There's David Reagan also. Burton finished second here in both races last year. He's 12th, Reagan 13th. And Kyle Busch overcoming, having to start at the tail end after the engine change, now at 14th. Behind Kyle, David Rudiman. Krista?
We know David Rudiman is not always positive about certain tracks, but he likes this one, and his stats prove it. He said he likes concrete tracks, they offer more grip, but right now he's loose off the throttle, tight on the gas.
Casey Kane just behind Rudiman, working past Andy Lally.
See, Casey started back in the 4th position. They definitely have made some serious adjustments on this car for Casey these first 2 stops.
Jamie Mack, 17th with his Chevrolet. And he's on the move up from 29th at the start. Brian Vickers bounced off the inside wall, completing lap 1, and apparently that hasn't hurt him.
It doesn't look like it. I mean, that he kind of grazed that inside wall and down the left side, and you can see not any damage, so I think the car is fine.
Denny Hamlin, 19th after starting 26th in the FedEx Camry.
And isn't that a cool looking car? I love that paint job on that car. And of course, Autism Speaks. You know, we had the tournament on Thursday up here in Wilmington and raised a lot of money for autism, and great tribute to the weekend.
And the puzzle piece is their emblem in that autism has no known cause and at present no cure. There's a lot of work to be done.
Denny Hamlin's never won here, but if he can win this race today, FedEx will donate $100,000 to Autism Speaks.
Bobby Labonte hanging around the top 20, just right about where he started in his Toyota.
And we're talking about getting hung up in somebody's mess here. Same thing happened to him last week. And boy, he was having a great run and then got taken out right at the end of the night.
So Labonte's been unable to advance from his start position, and so is the car behind him, Jeff Gordon. Dick?
Well, Gordon is exactly where he started, 21st, Mike. He said that when the car is running by itself, it's terrific. But when he gets behind somebody, the speed goes away.
You know, I'm getting a little confused about that. I heard that a lot last week. Hadn't heard a lot about aero push. I always hear about guys being out front clean air as an advantage. But it seems like the boys all of a sudden are starting to fight this push condition that they get when they get behind somebody. Hadn't heard that a lot until the last couple of weeks.
Kurt Busch has recovered nicely from his first 40 laps. They pulled the spring rubber, made other adjustments, and despite starting 6th, he'd fallen way back, and now he's up to 22nd. Trying to hang there till they can make more adjustments.
And you would think the way Brad is running, his teammate, I mean, same way last week. Brad ran great, finished 3rd. The 22 car struggled. Same thing today.
Matt Kenseth moving past Keselowski, taking over 7th place.
Yeah, I get a feeling that Matt Kenseth, that 17 car, 1 or 2 cautions, 1 or 2 adjustments, he'll be up there battling for the lead.
The rest of the lead lap cars, Tony Stewart, Ryan Newman, Boyer, Montoya, Menard, Blaney, Gilliland, and Mears. Jimmie Johnson out front at 87 laps in Dover. Let's take an inside look at what's happening now in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint and HTC Evo 4G. Fastest lap of the race, Brad Keselowski, set back at lap 3, and the most laps led by a huge margin, Jimmie Johnson. Fuel your inner NASCAR fan with live in-car audio and real-time stats on NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile and the new HTC Evo 4G from Sprint at sprint.com/speed. New second place car, Carl Edwards, has passed A.J. Allmendinger to move up to second, 0.8 of a second behind Jimmie Johnson. And Marcus Ambrose has passed his teammate to move into third. Allmendinger now fourth. Kevin Harvick completes the top 5. Matt Kenseth in sixth. Earnhardt, Keselowski, Truex, and Mark Martin the top 10.
You know, we're only about 15 laps away from what will be green flag pit stops, and as I look back there at A.J. Allmendinger in the 43 car, it seems like the pattern this year at the bigger racetracks, A.J. Allmendinger has been the first driver to hit pit road. I talked to his crew chief, Mike Shiplet, about that. He said, quite honestly, Larry, we're pitting because we need fuel. A.J. Allmendinger's driving style, we are getting a lot worse fuel mileage than our teammate Marcos Ambrose and the other Roush Fenway drivers.
And it makes a lot of sense. Pretty aggressive guy. And some guys can...
bad my hand, just no right front grip. And 4.
That was AJ we heard on the radio there. Some guys can play with the throttle. We heard Jimmie Johnson. That's conserving fuel. When you're stabbing that throttle, getting in the grass wide open, you're going to burn more fuel.
Kyle Busch moves up to 14th. Regan Smith hangs on to a top 15 spot. And it rained a lot here last night and early this morning. But the weather has pretty much stayed away from Dover International Speedway. And we have full sunshine right now.
The thing about it, this bay right here, that can do one of two things. It can intensify this front that we're seeing right here, or actually it can break it up a little bit. It's very unpredictable.
Jim Cantori just reporting in here.
NASCAR expects that we'll be able to get the full race distance in. The chance of rain increases from 10 to 30% at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Matt?
Mike, no wintry mix, but unpredictable conditions on the racetrack per Jimmie Johnson. He says the racetrack is starting to take rubber, but it's also making his loose condition a little bit inconsistent. We're about 10 laps away or so from stops.
Last September, Jimmie Johnson and A.J. Allmendinger combined led 334 of the 400 laps.
Talking about green flag pit stops, we know at Darlington last week a lot of drivers had trouble getting on the pit road. It's very treacherous at Darlington, but it's about as bad here because the entrance to pit road is once again almost just past the middle of turn 3 and 4.
I'll tell you the other thing I don't like about the entrance here. Look where the end of pit wall is. I mean, the yellow line where you got to be down to pit road speed, and that wall is just beyond that. Very, very tight getting in there.
It's such a tough entrance that the spot where they put the commitment cone has no cone. They didn't bother. It's just that orange box on the track you just saw go by, and there is the end of pit wall compared to the commit line.
Yeah, I mean, you got very little room for margin for error right there. There's your pit. That's your cone painted on the track. That's your basic cone without a head on it.
Ryan Newman is going to fall a lap down. He is the 25th place car.
You know, back to that entrance of pit road, I talked to Clint Boyer this morning. He said, Larry, you're coming off of 24 degrees of banking on concrete down to asphalt. And he said that asphalt, that apron is slick when you get down there.
See, something else is happening here, too. Look at Carl Edwards. He is gnawing his way right up here to the back bumper of that 48 car.
Jimmie Johnson, Darrell, appears to be very careful working lap traffic. A little too much so?
No, that's his style. You know, he's a conservative driver. We said in the pre-race show, in the 2 cars on pit road, Jimmie Johnson stays above the fray. And how he does it, he's very cautious.
Montoya and Keselowski on pit road. Steve?
Last thing we heard from Brad Keselowski was it's starting to tighten up. I like it. 4 tires and an air pressure adjustment for Brad Keselowski in the 2.
Kurt Busch and A.J. Allmendinger in the pit lane along with Tony Raines. And now Regan Smith comes in. David Rudiman, Brian Vickers. Krista.
Regan Smith in for 4 tires, and it was about 20 laps ago that he said his car got snappy loose. Steve?
Krista, A.J. Allmendinger saying that he's feeling a vibration in the steering wheel. He says he needs to be loosened up a little bit when he gets on throttle. 4 tires and a wedge adjustment.
David Gilliland, Kevin Harvick come to pit lane. So does Jeff Burton, Kyle Busch. Here's Steve.
Kevin Harvick said that his car is still too loose to report from Harvick. He's going to get 4 tires and an air pressure adjustment, Matt.
And Kyle Busch complained about his car just wicked tight, just plowing. Look for significant adjustments on the 18.
Got a problem down here on pit road, just like we said, Larry. The 6 car just spun around trying to get on pit road.
Got one coming behind you, another one.
Now he's going to try to turn around, and that almost blocked the pit entry of Jamie McMurray. Jimmy Johnson's in as Harvick leaves. Matt?
And he had to get around the 29 of Harvick. Chassis adjustment for Johnson. His car a take on the free side that last run, Mike.
The lead goes to Dale Earnhardt Jr. Matt Kenseth led a lap before his stop in front of Dick.
And Matt Kenseth has finished in the top 5 spring races in a row. He is asking for a minor adjustment to his car. Nothing major. They have hit out a setup that is working today for Kenseth.
Dale Jr. in the lane. Martin Truex should move up into the lead position if he does not pit. Mark Martin getting tires, but Truex is on pit road behind Jr.
It was a mess down there getting on pit road. Everybody's had a problem.
So Truex will not lead a lap this time around. Steve?
Dale Jr. saying we need to get off the corners better, guys. It feels like we're dragging the right rear tire all the way around. Matt Yocum.
At least an air pressure change for the 56 of Martin Truex Jr. complaining his car absolutely spinning out loose, especially on entry.
Well, they got a lap. Dale Earnhardt Jr. stopped his car 2 inches before the start-finish line, and Truex went by toward his pit and led that lap.
By that much. But we cycled through those set of green flag pit stops in about 4 to 5 laps because Jimmy Johnson, 05 time, he's back to the lead.
Now let's show you what happened that caused David Reagan to spin at the entrance to Pit Nut Road. He was 11th. And there's Casey Mears coming in, just barely making it, and Reagan with a pretty good head of steam. Yeah. Around he goes.
That was it. Oh, that's a hard lick.
Actually hit that guardrail.
What happened there was the transition off of the banking got the car loose. You see him come down right here, and all of a sudden when he comes off there, the banking on the flat, it gets the car loose. And this is hard contact, Larry.
Yes, it is. And he was running 11th. Now he's back there 1 lap down.
You want to carry as much speed as you can right to that commit line. And then coming around, as we said, Jamie Mack had an anxious moment, as did Tony Stewart trying to get to pit road.
And that cost those 2 drivers quite a bit of time under green flag pit stops.
Before pit stops, Jimmy Johnson had a 1.1 second lead over Carl Edwards. Now he's 1.1 ahead of Marcus Ambrose, and Edwards is 2 seconds back in third.
The FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks is delivered by Pizza Hut. At Pizza Hut, get any pizza, any size, any toppings for one amazingly low price when you carry out. 120 laps in Dover, Delaware, and time for an AT&T race break. These are the headlines. Jimmy Johnson leading 96 of the first 100 laps and dominating. He's won 3 of the last 4 Dover races. He's led in the last 4. And this week, Forbes magazine named Jimmy the world's most influential athlete, ahead of LeBron James, Tom Brady, Tim Tebow, based on success, likability, among other factors. And today, it looks like he's in a groove.
He is showing you why he is so feared when it comes to racing here at Dover. We've already documented how many races he's won here, but right now, he's just totally dominated this monster mile so far. And Chris, as long as Chad Kanowski keep making right adjustments, he'll be a threat all day long. But this is a guy I'm keeping an eye on, the 9-car Marcus Ambrose. We keep talking about first-time winners. This guy, he is right on the edge of making something happen, and he could wind up being the next Regan Smith.
And, of course, we also have had Trevor Bayne win for the first time this year. Doctors checked him out and wanted a second opinion before the All-Star race. But what about A.J. Allmendinger, who led 143 laps in the last Dover race, still looking for his first career win and running in the top 5?
Yeah, he's been solid all day long in his 43 car. If they can just keep him, comfortable to the point that his car was a little bit tight last time. I think he finally drove the right front tire off of it a little bit. He just needs to be a little bit more, I think, patient here and let this racetrack kind of come to him. He's another one of those guys that could easily wind up, get in the victory lane today.
Well, let's check in on Tony Stewart, and Steve Burns has the latest.
Chris, 2 problems for Tony Stewart. First off, he says that the balance on his car is horrible. He also had to come back to pit road a second time because they did not get his car full of fuel.
Thanks, Steve. He started 27th, and balance is something Tony Stewart said all year he's been looking for from his team. They've been on a roller coaster.
They really have, Chris, and this is a good racetrack for Tony. He usually runs pretty well here, but right now you see him pretty much, he just moved out of the way of Carl Edwards in the 99 and allowed him to get around him. And again, finding himself this many laps down this early in the race, he's 3 laps down. It's really going to be a long day for him here at Dover.
All right, so pit road issues so far. We've seen a little drama. We know there are tight quarters. What should we look for?
More of that, Chris, because as long as we have problems, we just saw a problem right there with the 9 car. That's second place battle right there between the 99 and the 9. And I think the 22, Kurt Busch, had a little influence on that. He kind of jammed him up off that corner, and Carl got position on Marcus, but he's not able to pull off the pass.
Bigger picture, Jimmy Johnson, Carl Edwards, 9 times they finished 1-2. Something to look for maybe toward the end of this race. But to check in on the AT&T Fastest Pit Crew Award, we want to know what you think. Text the car number to 234-567. AT&T, the nation's fastest mobile broadband network, getting faster with 4G.
And we got ourselves a whale of a battle for the second place right here. Carl Edwards is trying to get underneath the 9 car of Marcus Ambrose.
And Matt Kenseth up to the 5 spot. Let's rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike. This has been an AT&T race break.
Thanks, Chris. Now, when they were running single file, they had closed to within half a second of Jimmy Johnson, but now getting side by side, they're back to a second and a half back. The handling's beginning to go away on some of these cars. David Rudiman almost got up into the wall between turns 1 and 2, and there are others that are struggling now at 128 laps.
I think this track is going through a transition now. We're starting to see it turn very black, as you see right there. Plus, the sun keeps going in and out, and we have clouds in and out.
Look at the difference between the start of the race over on the left of your screen and where we are currently. These tires, I've never seen tires put down as much rubber as the tire we've got here this race. And the drivers, they like it to a point, but once it gets such a buildup, it gets slick. And I actually saw yesterday where some of the cars under caution were picking up rubber off of the racetrack. And I don't mean those loose ball kind of type of rubber that flies around. I'm talking about real rubber that was stuck to the track.
So the drivers and teams have to chase the racetrack much like you would with your beach chair on a partly cloudy day. Where's the sun going to be? Move me in the sun. No, move me back in the shade. Steve.
Now, you guys are exactly right. Carl Edwards echoing what you're saying. He said that although his car was great, turning well when the race started, he had in fact lost overall grip on that last stop. They made an air pressure adjustment to help Carl Edwards tighten up.
Top 4 cars pulling away from the field. Full sun in turn number 3. Turns 1 and 2 still in shade. That's the way it is at the Monster Mile. 131 laps into the FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks.
The FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks is sponsored by Verizon. Power your business with Verizon 4G LTE. By Walmart. Save money. Live better. Walmart. And by Toyota.
138 laps complete in Dover. Sponsifier's back for 2011. This year, the winning designer gets a personal visit from their favorite driver. Go online for all new ways to create, customize, and share your designs.
Mike, Larry, I'm watching some of these cars, and they've really become evil. Can you imagine, though, if you ride around here in a good race car, it's frightening. If you ride around here in a bad race car, as fast as this joint is, it's terrifying. And that's what some of these guys are going through right now. Huge transition.
The most terrified right now has got to be Jamie McMurray. McMurray is in 21st, and he just goes a lap down. Trying to battle Jimmy Johnson to stay on the lead lap. A lot of traffic ahead for the leader.
Well, while he's battling, you see it right there behind Jimmy Johnson in that 48. Carl Edwards in that 99's pulled right up to the rear bumper of that 48.
Edwards has led 1 lap today. Johnson has led 133. Matt?
Mike, no frustration at all for Jimmy Johnson as he continues to yard the competition, but his issue, like so many others, grip. The rubber laying down the racetrack is making it patchy loose at different parts of the racetrack. Chad Knaus just told him, do the best you can to hook the bottom. That's where the less rubber is.
It may be difficult for Johnson, but he is still the best car here at 142 laps.
I tell you what's going to get real interesting here as he has come. Whoa, Carl got a great run off of 2 right there. He may be able to make the pass getting into 3, but just up ahead of these 2 guys right here. The 24 is up here, not too far in front of him. Here's Clint Boyer just ahead of him, and there's the pass.
New leader, Carl Edwards.
That happened off of turn 2 over there, Carl.
We got 58, 50.
He's just able to pick the throttle up so much quicker and just rock it out of the corner on the straightaway. There's his crew chief, Bob Osborne.
Michael Bob.
Now they move up and underneath David Ruderman with Clint Boyer ahead.
What about Bob?
So that leaves us just 19 cars on the lead lap.
Right there, you can see the 99 car of Carl Edwards just pull away from Jimmy Johnson.
Well, we just heard Jimmy complain a little bit about his car. Maybe the patches of rubber on the track are affecting it. That might be right. That might be just the opposite for Carl. It might be fixing his problem.
I'll tell you another thing that Carl Edwards is thinking about, what Bob Osborne has been telling him, is we're about 55 laps away from halfway. I think they're looking at the weather map as well. They know they better go.
Edwards the leader. Johnson 1 second.
Hope it's not us. Tracking.
Johnson 1 second back. And A.J. Allmendinger 2 seconds off the lead. Steve?
Hey, A.J. Allmendinger saying the track is getting slick. His crew chief Mike Shiplett said, hey, we'll work on the rear of the car instead of the front on the next stop.
Thanks, Steve. His teammate Marcus Ambrose 4th, Matt Kenseth 5th, 19 cars on the lead lap. Jimmy Johnson may have eased his pace just a bit because of what happened here.
Yeah, the car just all of a sudden, and Larry, it's just fascinating to me. That car was leading the race a few laps ago at a steady pace. And a couple of laps, he complained about the car, and now the handle's gone.
But we know nobody does a better job than Jimmy Johnson and his crew of keeping up at the racetrack. But I'm sure what had to be on Jimmy's mind and that crew, are we too good in the beginning of this race when the track had no rubber on it?
There is Chad looking on as we get ever closer to pit stops. And here's Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Whoa, man, that thing took off just like Jimmy's did.
Keep coming. 2's coming with a run there. 2 back, 1 back.
7th
That's
place.
up here in front of you with these lap cars in the lead truck. Car in the wall in front of you, car in the wall in front of you. Watch the 88. Not sure what his problem is. Nothing out back. Let's get by him. Come on.
Now this will be 4th place. Ambrose versus Kenseth as some cars lose the handle. Matt Kenseth drops to the bottom, draws even with Ambrose, and makes the pass. Krista?
Marcus Ambrose is one of the drivers who's really not been asking for any adjustments. His car has been really good all day, but he did come on the radio and say the rubber buildup is really affecting the handling. He said the rubber on the track is getting me loose in and off the corners. The team, especially spotter Tim Vitoa, telling him just hang on, we'll get you fixed up.
Every time we come to a track this year with concrete corners, Bristol, Martinsville, Dover, we worry about the track rubbering up, taking on rubber. Could this track today be taking on too much rubber? And if so, then what?
Yeah, I think it is, and I think what the inconsistency is this. It's got a lot of rubber, got a really black groove about halfway into turn 3. Here we go. We got to battle back for the lead again. And then right here where they're coming off, see how dark it is? It's got dark in and dark off, but through the middle of the corner, there's not a lot of rubber buildup. So I think that inconsistency is throwing these guys a curve.
Wrinkles up here, just a couple, nothing to worry about. Just keep digging.
Now, a couple laps ago in the same exact spot, look at the 99 of Carl Edwards.
See the rubber right there, how black it is, and then it kind of lightens up right there, and then it darkens up again about right here, and it seems like off of that dark spot onto a little bit lighter spot is where the cars are getting out of control.
But I think we saw earlier, and you saw it right there on the tracker, when that happens, you're still well over 140, 150 miles an hour. It's not very forgiving.
Good luck, Chuck. 153 laps of 400 complete in Dover, Delaware. Miles the Monster, 200 tons of concrete, and his appetite is not for crab cakes. It's for cars. 161 laps in, A.J. Allmendinger, who started on the front row, has dropped a cylinder and is limping around the racetrack. Kurt Busch had handling troubles early. As we watch for the lead, Jimmie Johnson has caught Carl Edwards as raindrops fall on the window, a couple of big ones, not a steady rain, just a few drops here and there. Still 40 laps from halfway.
Yellow,
and caution
yellow for the rain. Watch your outside,
is out for
yellow
rain.
For the rain.
Mike, they had to throw a caution. I mean, as slick as the track is, the drivers complain about it, and then you throw a little water on top of that, you'd really have a mess on your hands. So good call on NASCAR's part.
Yesterday's race was interrupted with 50 laps to go. They did complete it under green, but not without lots of incidents. As we were saying, Miles the Monster claimed Kurt Busch. They fixed the handling on his car, but he went too deep in the corner and did a big slide up and kissed the wall. Tony Raines in the 37 has also met with the fence. And all this led race leader Carl Edwards and his spotter to discuss their own sense of foreboding.
Just stay on your toes here. We got a group about a straightaway up that's trying to wreck every lap. Just stay on your toes. Be ready for anything. You watch ahead best you can, James. I'm focusing here. I got you covered. Yeah, we're going to get a caution soon. Let's just hope it's not us. Track is builds up a huge amount of rubber.
Pit road is open and the leaders are in. Krista.
Mike, I mentioned that situation with the rubbering up of the track affecting Marcus Ambrose. They're going to make a slight wedge adjustment. You see the wrench going in the car right now. Steve?
Krista, pretty big air pressure adjustment for Carl Edwards. They just decided to double their adjustment, Matt.
Jimmie Johnson said the biggest hindrance he had against Carl Edwards' car turned so well he could go below the rubber in the corners. Chassis adjustment across the back to try to help the balance in the 48.
You saw rain dappling the concrete, especially up in the turn 4 area, not so much down in turn 1. That's the way these scattered thunderstorms tend to pass across the racetrack as Martin Truex slides out of his stall.
Nice race off of pit road between the 48 and the 99, and the 48 prevailed.
A.J. Allmendinger did not stop. Picks up the race lead briefly. Caution for rain, lap 164 in the FedEx 400, benefiting Autism Speaks on Fox.
The FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks on Fox is sponsored by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
Under caution and about to go back to green here at Dover. Here's an inside look at what's happening now in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Biggest mover in this race, Kyle Busch, started last. He's gained 31 spots. And the Sprint Cup point leader, that would be Carl Edwards in the 99. Fuel your inner NASCAR fan with live in-car audio and real-time stats on NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile and the new HTC Evo 4G. Go to sprint.com/speed. 33 laps to halfway. And A.J. Allmendinger's car smoking out the tailpipes and headed for the garage after a great start. 2 great runs here last year. And a strong run thus far. Kevin Harvick sitting in 5th place, and we listened in.
You can really see the lap times change with the sun in and out. I felt like we had a really good car there the last half of that run.
Let's see what happens now as he restarts 5th behind Johnson, Edwards, Kenseth, and Ambrose. hear from Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy, for what it's worth, man, there is just no tire. I mean, your tires are fine. Perfectly fine. No wear whatsoever on that right front.
Kind of makes sense. I mean, there's so much tire rubber on the track that it's just skipping off that.
There's so much to be worried. I mean, there's no heat, no bubbles, no wear, no nothing.
Good info.
Very reassuring as we will get a restart here in 1 lap minus the dinger. Yesterday's race was a wild one, as we said, interrupted by rain, and it all came down to the final lap. Carl Edwards is in the 60. That's Joey Logano outside him. No contact. Logano off the wall. Clint Bowyer pounds Logano and the wall. These two cars did not touch. Keselowski turned around behind them. Wow.
Yeah, Clint Bowyer told me this morning, Larry, when I hit that 20 car Joey Logano, I was wide open in the throttle.
Yeah, they all were. I mean, they're coming to the flag, you know, and that's the way with the 18. He ran the back of the 22 of Keselowski. But the man, they're racing for the finish, you know, so that wreck happens in front of you, not a whole lot you can do.
Landon Castle, Tony Stewart, both 4 laps down, take the wave around. And David Reagan had to go to the tail end of the line because he ran the paddle at the end of pit road. The pace car had already passed the point at which you cannot re-enter the track without waiting for the rest of the pack. So it's Johnson and Edwards, Kenseth and Ambrose, Harvick, Truex, Keselowski, Kane, Earnhardt, and Martin with 19 cars on the lead lap. Jamie McMurray got the free pass. And a speeding penalty on Denny Hamlin drops him to 19th on the restart. He sped at the entrance to pit road.
And outside worked good for Jimmy Johnson on that restart, Larry. He got a great jump.
And it helped Marcus Ambrose in the 9 car as well, who falls in the 2nd place.
Yeah, followed right along behind him.
How about Martin Truex up to the top 5 as we crank it up for you on Fox. Under full sunshine, Jimmy Johnson leading Marcus Ambrose by 0.3 of a second with Carl Edwards, Matt Kenseth, and Martin Truex without A.J. Allmendinger, who's in the garage with Matt.
Mike, an impressive first quarter of the race for A.J. Allmendinger. Obviously frustrated, A.J. What was amiss with the motor? Any idea?
No, we're not sure yet. You know, everybody back in the engine shop, Doug Yates, all the guys, they do a great job, and just this rarely happens. Unfortunately, it happened today. And I don't know, you know, the Best Buy Ford was hooked up. We were fighting a little bit tight, but the track had gotten real slick, and I'd figured it out, and we were running those guys down. Man, it hurts. I want to win so bad for the King, for Best Buy, for everybody. Just sucks.
Almost like black ice on the racetrack.
Man, it was slick. I mean, it was fun, but it was slick. It was fun. It showed what the drivers had to do. You know, you really had to work the race car, find the lines. I was having a ton of fun. Just we were running them down.
Pretty disappointing. You can hear it in his voice, but by the same token, he was having fun while he was out there, and that's important. To walk out of here and say, well, we're having fun, we had a good car, we'll get them next time.
And his teammate is in 2nd place. And closing on Jimmy Johnson, you saw Jeff Gordon drop 2 spots there. One of them to Brian Vickers, who moves up to 13th, Krista.
And this was the race, the first race last year that Brian Vickers missed due to those blood clots. He told me, I think Dover will be the race that means the most to me this season. If I can get to that one, I will really feel like I'm over the hump. And they made no adjustments on the last stop. After slapping the wall on lap 1, he's happy.
Krista. Marcus Ambrose is even happier. Last week, Regan Smith joined the 1-1 club, or win one. And here is Ambrose trying to overhaul race leader Jimmie Johnson. Whoa!
he got on it too hard. He got up right up behind Jimmie Johnson, had to back out a little bit. It cost him some momentum. But, man, that 9 car is fast. It's faster than 48 right now if he can get around him.
The last time we had back-to-back first-time winners in the Sprint Cup Series. 2007 when Casey Mears won at Charlotte, and Martin Truex took the checkered flag here the very next week.
You see old cousin Carl Edwards in that 99. He's moving back in the picture here as he pulls right up on the rear bumper of Ambrose in the 9. Carl wiggled bad right there about the time he picked the throttle up in 1 and 2.
I think Marcos is going to be mighty cautious right here, Larry. He's got an opportunity to run up front, got a good car, don't want to do anything foolish.
He has not led a lap today, Darrell, and that may figure into their thinking as those bonus points, as tight as things are, those can loom pretty large. Ambrose right now is 20th in the standings, 138 out of first, as Vickers gets Dale Jr., and here comes Jeff Gordon battling back.
Got a little bump there from Jeff Gordon. I think Junior's car may not be as good since he hit the wall there before that caution flag came out. The car doesn't seem to be performing as good as it was.
They have a lot of work to do still on Jeff Gordon's 24 car because he actually, that caution benefited him. He was about to go a lap down to our leader.
How about Earnhardt, Steve?
Mike, he hit the wall back on lap 153. He told Steve Letarte that was totally my fault. Said, you guys didn't do anything wrong. The car's fine. I just got up too high.
Okay. New second place car. Carl Edwards has passed Marcus Ambrose. Here's a look at it.
Well, you see why. Marcos got a little bit loose right there. That's that inconsistency everybody's complaining about. Cost him that momentum, and that Carl pounced on him and got by.
Yeah, the straightaways here, they start way back in the middle of the corner, so when you have to roll back out of the throttle there, you're going to get past.
If there's a sentimental favorite in the field, Martin Truex would be a good candidate. Got his first Cup win right here at Dover for DEI. Now driving for Michael Waltrip and trying to repeat visit to victory lane. Makes the pass on Matt Kenseth. Here's Matt Yocum.
Mike, he has just about seen it all this year with different obstacles, had to try to leap over. Right now with the car, I think on the free side, he looks at this weekend like an opportunity weekend. Yes, it's his home track. He's had success here, but he knows the cars have been fast. They just have to put the full race package together.
This is actually a milestone for Martin Truex Jr. This is his 200th career start. His cousin Carl Edwards at 99 all over the back of Jimmie Johnson.
I think the one thing that's given these guys, these first three particularly, fits is that their cars, that they're driving, everything's good, and then all of a sudden they snap around or they push up the hill. The inconsistency has got these guys a little edgy.
185 complete in the FedEx 400, benefiting Autism Speaks. Jimmie Johnson leading on NASCAR on Fox. New leader at Dover International Speedway, Carl Edwards, has passed Jimmie Johnson. While we were away, have a look at Jimmy's car going off into turn number 1 and unable to hold the bottom right there. Edwards closes up and pounces, and half a lap later makes the pass.
Clear, looking inside. 99 only.
So Carl is now 6/10 up
driving, my man. Just stay with him.
on Jimmie Johnson. And as we are just 6 laps from halfway, he has played right into crew chief Bob Osborne's pre-race plan.
Radar is clear, but you know how this place is. Let's plan on racing to halfway right now, and we'll go from there.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, so it's coming up on halfway. We've got the lead, but the sun is shining, so that probably was a good plan before the race started.
4.5 to go to halfway here this time. Just keep motoring time. Just keep motoring.
Edwards is pulling away. He's 0.9 of a second up on Johnson, with Ambrose third. And right behind him, the fastest car on the racetrack right now, Martin Truex Jr. in the 56.
But what I'm seeing with the number of these cars is when it was cloudy, overcast, looked like Jimmie Johnson had the best car. But looked like when the sun got out here, and it's pretty bright right now, it's pretty warm, 48's struggling a little bit, and that 99 is coming on strong.
This guy's been coming on strong ever since the drop of the green flag. Matt Kenseth in that 17 car started back in the 24th. He's cracked the top 5, but he's kind of settled in right there.
That's his style. Get in the top 5, keep the leaders in sight. Don't do anything right now. Save your car.
Kevin Harvick 3.5 seconds back. Started 10th. Casey Kane running 7th.
Casey's one of those drivers that's definitely been searching this racetrack. We saw him one of the first drivers to move up the racetrack in the corners.
Mark Martin quietly running in 8th place. Dover has been a very good track for Mark Martin.
And you know, that doesn't surprise me, because you think about Kenseth, Jeff Burton, Mark Martin, even Jeff Gordon. Those guys, 400 laps is a long race here, and they're kind of pacing themselves a little bit, I believe.
Clint Bowyer battling Kyle Busch side by side. Bowyer yesterday and last Saturday night at Darlington ended up hard into the inside wall at the end of both races. Krista.
And remember, he was the one who was upset about taking 2 tires early. He's had no grip for most of the stops throughout the race. He went from no grip to really loose. Now he's saying it's just a little bit tight. Matt?
Kyle Busch has won 2 of the last 3 spring races here at Dover, but he is simply on a work in progress agenda right now. He says his race car not in the racetrack, and it has no feel. Not similar at all like it did last year. No grip on the front or back, and he said if he could get the front grip fixed, he could handle the back. But right now, they're still searching, but making slight progress on the 18.
He's up the hill, and Jeff Gordon's underneath trying to make the pass for 12th.
Yeah, you know, Larry, you gotta move up the hill a little bit here and get out of that black rubber that's built up. We've got a battle here for second. Martin has really got his car hooked up right now.
For about the last 10 laps, he's been one of the quickest cars on the racetrack.
Well, I think we touched on it earlier. You think about Martin Truex Jr. in that 56 car is now. He didn't get through 3 and 4. He's under fire from Ambrose in the 9. Martin Truex Jr. has been fast all year long. Just a lot of issues like that stuck throttle at Martinsville, like the loose wheel at Richmond. Finally got a top 10 last week at Darlington.
And we've seen this with every car.
Kyle Busch way up the hill. Excuse me, Darrell. He almost got into the wall in turn number 1. But Kyle manages to save it and keep going. That'll take your breath.
I think that's his new groove he's working on. But every time somebody gets in the lead or we see a battle amongst these leaders, the guy in front makes a mistake. Car wiggles a little bit, and he loses 2 or 3 spots. This track is really tricky. Tricky track right now old Miles is throwing at him.
I'll show you what happened to Kyle Busch, and I thought he was headed for the fence. Jeff Gordon up underneath him.
Might have got a little shove into the corner right there.
A little faster than he wanted to go.
And Matt Kenseth, who a lap ago also climbed the hill in turn 1. He's got past Truex. The old cross under move, and here we go. It's on.
But in that high line like he was, as he wiggles pretty hard off turn 2, you're able to prevail. You keep the thing wound up there.
Kenseth is a past Dover winner, and he's finished 4th or better in 5 of the last 6 races here.
Just a few laps ago, Jamie McMurray in the 1 had to make an unscheduled pit stop, had a flat tire, had to come to pit road to get tires on that 1 car.
Truex slings it off the corner. They're in 5th place. Only 18 cars on the lead lap. Kurt Busch, the first car 1 lap down. Carl Edwards has led 40 of the 206 laps so far in the FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks.
Number 99 is going 100%. Find out what's next for Carl on NASCAR on Fox.
The FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks is sponsored by Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. By the new Chevy Silverado HD, Motor Trend's 2011 Truck of the Year. And by AT&T, rethink possible. On Check of the Headlines, time for an AT&T race break. We're live in Dover, Delaware. Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers, Carl Edwards, the leader, but Jimmie Johnson has led 159 laps. And Jeff, as we look at this, the class of the field, when you think about Johnson has won the last 5 championships, Edwards, the points leader, coming in looking for his first championship, and these two are setting the pace past the halfway mark.
Well, I think we've kind of documented earlier in our pre-race about how important this race is going to be in the chase later on. So when you see these two guys, this could be a very much an insight of what we may see in the fall when they're battling for the championship.
And this Monster Mile track has been tough on points leaders. Only one out of the last 30 races won by the points leader coming in. So we'll see if Carl Edwards can hold on. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick on probation, warned by NASCAR, not just about wrecking each other, but also getting into anybody else. And so far, they've stayed out of the way of each other. Harvick's been in the top 10 all day. Kyle Busch from the back of the pack has been up in the top 15.
Yeah, he still has some work to do. He's chasing the racetrack a lot like everybody else, but he started so far back. Do not count this guy out. We still got a lot of racing to go. I think a couple more pit stops. You'll find this 18 up there in that top 10.
And the caution has just come out, and we have debris in turn 3 and the rubber buildup on the track here, too, transitioning the weather here. Jeff, as we check out the 4th caution of the day.
Yeah, well, right now we're riding along here with Denny Hamlin in the 11 car. He's 18th right now. He was right on the verge of going a lap down. So big break for him, as well as Kurt Busch in the 22, who should get the free pass. But you see how this racetrack
the rubber buildup.
The rubber buildup. And Chris, as I was explaining to you, as this rubber goes down, to me, it's a lot like crayons. If you ever take a crayon and put it on a piece of paper, you see how it transfers and kind of got a buildup. You put more crayon on top of each other, it starts building up, and it gets kind of a waxy film. And I think this is what this racetrack is kind of happening. All this rubber's building up, and the guys are having trouble getting grip for it.
As we take a look at the current standings for the AT&T Fastest Pit Crew, you can get in on the action, texting the car number you think will average the least amount of time on pit road. You were listening in, too, on Jimmie Johnson and his tires on the rubber as well. Let's rejoin Mike Joy.
As you said, Kurt Busch is the free pass car, and pit road is open. Here's Kristen.
Well, Marcus Ambrose hasn't needed many adjustments, but on the last stop, they did put wedge in the car during this run. Marcus said, I need that wedge out, so they're going back on that change. Dick?
And Matt Kenseth's crew is going to adjust the car so we can get in the corner better. The entry is messing up the rest of it. Steve?
Carl Edwards wants a little bit more grip, but he said, don't change the balance. This car is nice through the center, man.
An adjustment for the car and an adjustment for the driver. An adjustment, Jimmy says he needs track bar to help just past center of the corner to get the car in the racetrack more. And Chad Canals told Jimmy, you've got to push the microphone in your helmet closer to your mouth. It's very difficult to hear you under green flag conditions.
Race off pit road. Edwards over Ambrose, barely. Matt Kenseth, Jimmie Johnson, and Martin Truex will be the top 5 when we go back to green. 218 laps complete, working the 4th caution of the day in Dover. Just a few miles south of the racetrack is Dover Air Force Base, where massive C-5 and C-17 planes line the runways used daily for transporting military equipment all over the world. We want to say hello to all of our armed forces serving in 175 countries and territories watching today's race on American Forces Network. We're glad you're enjoying the race with us. $221 laps complete. 179 to go, and look at this comparison among the leaders' stops.
Well, if you notice here, driver time, which is going down pit road about the same, but take a look at the crew time. If you notice, Jimmie Johnson's crew gave up almost 2 seconds, over 2 seconds to Marcos Ambrose, and close to 2 seconds to Carl Edwards. That's the reason he lost 2 spots on pit road.
You know, Mike Larry, I know we're talking about the rubber on the track, but you know what? You got to deal with it. You know, you can't fix it. You can't get rid of it. You're going to have to make some adjustments here, crew chief, and give me a car that I can deal with this rubber on the racetrack, because there's nothing I can do about it.
It's not going to go away, and it's the same for everybody.
Darrell, what it has to come down to is you drive that car and haul it off into the corner, and you've got to believe it's going to stick. It's going to be there for you.
Well, they got a lot of tricks in their bag down there, so pull one of them out. Give me a car I can drive as hard as I want to.
Carl Edwards, Marcus Ambrose, Matt Kenseth, Jimmie Johnson, Truex and Bowyer, Harvick and Kane, Gordon and Keselowski. 19 cars on the lead lap. Back to Kurt Busch, who got the free pass. And we're under green again in Dover.
Where those pit stops really shake things up, don't they? Other than at the very front with the 99 and the 48 maybe. But there's Boyer hanging in there, and here comes Kasey Kahne.
And Ambrose is going to hold that spot against Kasey Kahne, Matt.
Mike, a possible issue on the fourth, Kasey Kahne. The bolts did not look right on battery number 1. Kenny Francis told him to go to number 2. Also turn off his helmet blowing system just to try to figure out what they've got problem-wise. Now he says that the bolts are back, so they're not really sure what's going on in this Ford machine.
I don't know what's Matt. Right now, nothing's going on because he's moving.
And just ahead of Kahne, Clint Boyer is back in the hunt. Now that's a car that almost went a lap down with Jeff Gordon earlier.
He's the only car just passing, guys. Stay with it here. He's one back, half back running the top, quarterback. He's the only one making it work. Quarterback outside out.
Good information for Boyer as Kahne comes around. Jeff Gordon passing Dale Earnhardt Jr. That's back at 12th place. Trying to get him back in the hunt today.
These two guys have been going at it. I mean, they've actually made contact a couple of times. I've watched the 88 and the 24 here. Might be teammates, but they're not. They've taken the gloves off a couple of times.
Truex looking underneath Ambrose in the 9.
Larry, poor Truex has got to be just a little bit edgy. That was him. I think we heard hollering on the radio after last week and then yesterday. He's had a couple of hard licks.
Talking about Clint Boyer.
Clint Boyer,
33, yeah.
Keselowski, Jeff Burton trying to figure in this one, running 10th and 11th with Gordon closing. And back up front to Carl Edwards, Krista.
We saw the times of how the 99 and 9 had good pit stops, but they also had some good communication before that restart.
Hey, Mike, how you doing? I'm good. I'm going to take the top. I started on the bottom last time. I should tell you, watch out for that rubber build up there. It's pretty bad. Okay, 10-4. Thank you, buddy. Hey, 10-4, Steve.
A little cooperation there.
Yeah, but I really like that. Carl trying to help out Marcos there. Carl's got a good car. He's trying to help Marcos keep his up front as well. I like that.
12th place battle right side of your screen. Gordon holding off Earnhardt as Edwards has a 1-second lead on Jimmy Johnson and almost 2 seconds on Kasey Kahne.
It's amazing how helpful you can be to your competition when you have the fastest car. You really are willing to share information.
Regan Smith, last Saturday night's winner, has radioed in that his car smells like it has an electrical fire, and all the gauges just went dark.
Because they do run electrical gauges in these cars, and so that would be the second possible electrical issue we've heard about. Just reported a few laps ago, Kasey Kahne may be having a problem.
And Brian Vickers, Kahne's teammate, also has been told to keep an eye on the electricity. Here comes Kevin Harvick, Matt Kenseth. And Kevin Harvick reflected on his pit stop so far today.
Time we pitted, we've lost the spot. In fact, every spot we've lost on the track today has been on pit road. Tempo, I know.
Quite honestly, that's what put Kevin Harvick in the position last Saturday night at Darlington that he was in. They had a little bit of a hiccup on that final pit stop and put him back there in the middle of the eye of the storm.
And, I like that response to him, though. We know. We understand. We see the problem. Again, it's another one of those things. Just drive the car. We're working on it.
Here's your Pizza Hut fan favorite today by your vote, Jeff Gordon. And currently he is trying to hold 13th. Brad Keselowski and Brian Vickers attacking Gordon. And up front, Martin Truex, Marcus Ambrose. Keep going at it there.
Well, Larry, we just felt like it is sooner or later this 56 car, the Napa car, they got to get up there and win a race. They have been running so good, even back as far as Bristol. Had a dominant car. It's had a number of good runs here lately, but nothing to show for it.
But what Martin Truex's crew did at Bristol, they did not keep up with the adjustments to keep up with that concrete surface at that racetrack.
In fact, they're doing a better job of that today because they're right there.
234 laps complete. Your FedEx race summary. Carl Edwards has led 67 laps today. He's the first of 19 cars on the lead lap. 8 different leaders. Jimmie Johnson's led the most laps. 15 lead changes. 4 caution flags, and only one of them for an incident. Joey Logano spinning in lap 2 at lap 20.
Larry, I believe they made that 48 car much better on the long run, particularly. His lap times are a little quicker than Carl, starting to close down that lead a little bit. 48 car looks a little more consistent on this run than he did the last one.
But I'm sure what Jimmie Johnson wants to see is how is it another 15, 20, 25 laps from now, since we're only about 15 laps from that last restart.
Johnson closing in on Carl Edwards' lead, as you saw, down to 0.7 of a second with 164 laps to go in Delaware.
The FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks is sponsored by Lowe's. Choose 5% off every day when you use your Lowe's consumer credit card.
244 laps complete. 1 change in the top 10. Dale Earnhardt Jr. passed Jeff Burton for 10th place. Carl Edwards, your leader, has now led in 9 of the 11 races this year, most of any other driver.
You know, we've been calling him Concrete Carl. He's starting to really grow that reputation. We just saw a nice pass here by the 29 car around Matt Kenseth.
7th place for Harvick.
I believe Kevin Harvick that we're riding with right now, that 29 car, I think he may have one of the better cars for the long run, it seems like.
And I think he knows that, Larry, and I think that's one reason why he called him out in the pits. Come on, guys, help me out here, you know, help me help you. I think that might be a problem.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. has been chewing him up and knocking him down, and he got right to Kyle Busch. And then that happened.
Yeah, I think that's what I see with this car, these cars on this track. Drive it hard, drive it hard, drive it hard, and all of a sudden it does something crazy, and you lose your confidence, and it takes a few laps to get it back.
But I don't think we can say enough about Kyle Busch and that 18 team, because started this race at the rear of the field because of an engine change, slapped the wall on Friday, and he has driven from 43rd to the top 10 with only the aid of 4 cautions and a lot of green flag runs.
Whoa, did you hear that thing, Larry, coming up off the corner? When he comes up out of that hole up on the straightaway, that's what you really hate to hear.
Loss of rear grip. Almost did the same thing again the minute he picked the throttle up in 3 and 4. You can see Earnhardt Jr. in the 88 closing back in.
See how your Dodge Chargers are running today. Brad Keselowski 12th, Kurt Busch 18th. They are both on the lead lap. Scott Wimmer drove Robbie Gordon's car in the race today, and after multiple pit stops, dropped out and will finish 38th. Mark Martin for 14th past Brian Vickers.
No, we mentioned it, but Vickers has done a nice job of keeping himself in contention after that early mishap with the wall. Car seems to be okay. Hadn't had any problem with it, really.
Edwards working traffic has extended his lead now to a 2.5 over Jimmie Johnson.
Yeah, I thought Johnson was really, the 48 was closing there and had really got within just shouting distance of 99, but all of a sudden Carl kicked it back up a notch and pulled away again.
Clear.
In 2 weeks, the Coca-Cola 600 under the lights, twilight 600-mile race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That'll be our next outing on NASCAR on Fox.
It's one of my favorite races. I just like the preparation that goes into that race, not only from a driver's standpoint of view, but the car. Everybody really focuses on that extra 100 miles and how it's going to affect the race.
But you know, Darrell, in the pre-race, when y'all talked to Kevin Harvick, he touched on it a little bit. When you look at our last 3 races of NASCAR on Fox, here today, Charlotte in 2 weeks, and in that first weekend in June at Kansas, it definitely huge for these drivers, because these are 3 racetracks that they will have to deal with when we get to the 10 races in the chase in the fall.
Casey Kane up on the outside there of Clint Bowyer. Bowyer goes by. Kane with a third and a fourth in the last two races, and Boyer's on the move. Krista.
And his crew definitely got the job done on that last stop, gaining tons of positions from Clint Bowyer, but he came on the radio about 20 laps later and said, I just got snappy loose. They're telling him to protect the right rear, because as you know, as the car gets loose here, that's really where the damage is done. They said, just hang on.
Thanks, Krista. The last time Dale Jr. tried to get past Kyle Busch, he dumped it way into the corner, almost tossed it away, as you saw. This time, Kyle gave him plenty of room. Matt.
Kyle Busch is complaining his car is still on the free side, but his other complaint is simply an aero-tight condition. When he gets close to the air pocket of the next car, the car just starts to push. He can't make any headway, can't try to pass. Frustrated.
So Kyle drops a spot to Dale Jr. and falls to 10th. Right behind him, that's Jeff Burton, 11th. Remember, Burton had runner-up finishes in both Dover races last year.
You know, I mentioned that earlier about this, the cars getting up behind each other, and it makes it hard to pass. One thing I didn't think about, and it could very well be a part of the equation, was the weather gets hotter, the track gets slicker. That's going to make running up on another car and having the grip to cut out from under him and go around him more and more difficult. We could be seeing that a lot. It's hot at Darlington last week. It's pretty warm here with the sun out now. That could have a big effect on these cars when it comes to trying to pass.
Three-car battle for fourth place. Matt.
And Mike, one guy to keep an eye on, he's just been settling in right there in 6, is Martin Truex Jr. He had a big grip issue earlier in the race. They've been making big progress. Not as bad now, it's just a tick on the free side. You can hear it in their voice. A lot of confidence in his 56 pin.
Matt, if you could have just seen what we saw, they've got a little work to do yet. That thing came off the corner all sideways, and Kevin Harvick eating him up now.
Steve?
And I think, guys, Kevin Harvick was being conservative. About 40 laps ago, he reported he had a very bad vibration. We've talked a lot about the rubber building up in the racetrack. Last few laps, he's reported no problem whatsoever.
Guys, we're about 25 to 30 laps away from what will be green flag pit stops again.
You know what I hear from that silence from Harvick? You guys aren't going to help me all that much. I'm going to get it done on my own. And he's closing. Next weekend, the stars come out for the Sprint All-Star Race. It's live Saturday night and only on Speed. And Trevor Bayne is expected to compete. Our Daytona 500 winner has said that the double vision issues that he's had are just about taken care of. And he and Jack Roush will test at Gresham Motorsports Park this week to prepare for his first All-Star Race appearance.
Just seems so impossible that he could, the Cinderella story coming out of Daytona and all that he got and what he did for the sport, and people were excited about him being around, and then have something like that happen to him. So excited for him to get back.
Well, today he is running the Tennessee North Carolina 230. He's driving from Knoxville to Charlotte to get ready for practice this week and for the All-Star Race. Been a tough day for Tony Stewart. Look at him way up and out of the groove in turn 2. Running it slideways. Stewart is 5 laps down in 32nd place.
Man, that's just so uncharacteristic of him and that team. But here's some good. I'll tell you, these guys here, they've been coming together. These 4 cars here, Kane, Marcos, Truex, and Jr. all coming together here. Pretty good little battle.
And Steve Jr.'s climbed his way up to 8th.
Getting some good advice from his crew chief, Steve Letarte. Steve told Dale Jr., be patient on your entry speed. Just back it up a little bit. Nice job.
Well, he's definitely been picking them up and laying them down in this long green flag run that we've had here.
That was my point about the rubber on the track. Guys, you know, you got rubber on. Back up a little, back your corner speeds up a little bit, change your drive, find a groove, do something, because the rubber on the track is here to stay.
And you saw Stewart go way up the racetrack to let Ambrose and Truex by. I thought perhaps he might have a tire problem, but no, he was just being out of the way of the quicker cars.
Yeah, Marcos is he's definitely got the handling problems right now. That's why he's letting these guys go by.
Krista?
Loose everywhere. That's the problem for Marcos Ambrose. Loose in and off.
Now a little further back, Jeff Gordon and Kyle Busch have been battling for 11th place.
24-2 back coming. One back, inside, by himself.
Whoa.
Was there a little contact there?
I think there might have been, but there was some, I think it went both ways. We just didn't catch it the other way.
Your Pizza Hut fan favorite currently runs in 11th, 12.5 seconds off the lead.
And that left rear tire had some pretty serious rub on there, too, so you got to keep an eye on that thing.
Dick?
Well, Jeff Gordon started in the 21st spot, Mike, and they simply have not gotten the car to his liking so far today. He's voted up to the 11th, and there have been times during the course of the day when he has said the car is as fast as anybody, but his lap times have not equaled the guy on the lead.
Right now, he's about 13 seconds behind leader Carl Edwards. And you just saw Matt Kenseth in the 17. His car took off right in the middle of the corner.
Hey, crew chief, how much longer before we pit? I gotta come to pit road.
And more importantly, what are you going to do for this condition?
Yeah,
we
right.
don't see this often.
Well, and you know what I'm seeing, though? I'm seeing these guys, some of them move up the racetrack a little bit, trying to straddle that black streak of rubber everybody's talking about.
And this morning, everybody in the garage is going, are we going to get it in? Is it not going to rain? Did anybody think we'd see this much sun today?
I don't think we thought we'd see the sun at all today.
I think Dennis McGuinn predicted a day like today.
Well, he's the track president. That's his job. Absolutely.
And oh, by the way, driver, if you can just give me 10 more laps and live with it, we're going to come to pit road for a green flag stop.
Thank you.
Well, now in 1 and 2, several drivers have climbed the hill to get way away from the rubber buildup. Ryan Newman, Kurt Busch, others have really climbed the hill to look for the high groove.
And you can just see. You can see how dark it is down here. And that's what the drivers are complaining about. But, man, look at all this room up here. Why don't you go up here and run a while? That's pretty clean.
They keep moving it up a little higher and a little higher. We may be up there considering we still got well over 100 laps to go.
Well, I think what you can do, Larry, when you got new tires on, you can handle that groove down on the bottom. The car will stick. But as your tires wear, you got to move around a little bit.
Just saw Clint Boyer's team up on the pit wall. I think we're real close to most of these drivers coming to pit road for that green flag stop. 4 tires, fill her up with Sunoco race fuel.
It's been 60 laps since anyone was on pit road with 121 to go. We're moving right into the window where it would be a 1 pit stop race after they make this one. Been a strange day, an up and down day to be sure for Clint Bowyer. And remember the bouts with the wall he had yesterday and the last race. He's been as low as 36th in this race and was in deep danger going a lap down at that one point. And now he has fought his way to 3rd.
Clint's wild ride, man, yesterday, and then what happened to him at Darlington, but it's good to see him make a recovery here. Got a good car.
Rudiman and Stewart on pit road, and Regan Smith. Krista?
David Rudiman has been too loose most of this race. Crew making a 4-tire change. Rudiman, one of the first cars to come in on these green flag stops.
Regan Smith gets 4 tires and fuel as well. And the pit window is open, as they say. A couple of lap down cars, Tony Stewart and Greg Biffle in the pit lane. None of the leaders have yet taken the opportunity.
Remember, on that first set of green flag pit stops, David Reagan, a top 10 car, got in trouble coming on the pit road. So I think a lot of drivers have that on their mind.
Bobby Labonte coming in. As you look back at Martin Truex and see Rudiman coming off pit road. And here's Matt Kenseth. He will be the first of the leaders to pit. Kenseth gives up 4th place. Dick?
And Matt Kenseth said that the car was simply dropping too far back because it was loose. He wanted to hit the car as soon as possible. Steve?
And Brad Keselowski getting the car better and better. It's going to be a 4-tire stop for for Brad Keselowski. Kevin Harvick in the 29 also coming. Harvick saying that he's wanted more rear grip.
Ambrose, Earnhardt, and Kyle Busch on pit road, and here's Carl Edwards as well. All these pit stops at lap 284. Steve?
Mike, Carl Edwards just told his crew that he's having fun. They're just going to make a small adjustment. He said the car is balanced well, and it's just a little bit free. They're going to take a half pound out of the right rear tire. Otherwise, 4 tires of fuel for Carl Edwards.
Marcus Ambrose gives up 4th place to pit, along with Casey Kane, Martin Truex, Mark Martin, Kurt Busch, Denny Hamlin, and race leader Jimmy Johnson. Jeff Burton gets service, and he's away. Jeff Gordon is done. Matt.
And Jimmy Johnson on his way down to his pit box. Meanwhile, the 4th, Casey Kane, in air pressure for him. He was free. Jimmy Johnson says we are a step better on this 48 machine. Give me more of the same he made in the last stop, which was wedge.
Clint Boyer, Casey Mears, Dave Blaney, and Travis Kvapil making their stops. Chad Knaus's crew completes work on the 48, and Johnson's back out.
Same as before, in about a 4 to 5 lap window, we cycled through the green flag pit stops as Carl Edwards. It's actually going to be a little bit behind Jimmy Johnson in that 48 car. One more pit stop to go.
I know why, Larry. They held the 99 a little bit long to be sure they got him full of fuel. They were really, really hanging on the fuel can, even though the tires had been changed.
And the race leader for the first time today is Juan Pablo Montoya. And the number 42 Chevy, who started 17th, he has not yet made his pit stop. With Johnson now second, Edwards, Boyer, and Harvick the top 5. So Montoya will lose the lead on the racetrack and likely then go a lap down when he makes his stop under green. Off turn 2, Johnson to the inside. This is for the lead.
Of course, what Juan Pablo Montoya and his team's trying to do is run it as far as they can on fuel with the hopes of catching a caution, and they would gain a lot of track position because they have been off, quite honestly, all weekend here at Dover.
Yeah, they've struggled with that car. He struggled all day in the race. So, yeah, they're gambling a little bit right here. Could pay off. Never know.
Edwards goes past. Before pit stops, Edwards had a 9/10 of a second lead over Jimmy Johnson. Now it's Johnson with a 1.1 second lead over Carl Edwards. 111 laps to go.
The FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks on Fox is sponsored by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
104 laps to go. Jimmy Johnson in front of Carl Edwards by 1 second. Clint Boyer 3.5 back. Kevin Harvick 7 back, and Jeff Burton in 5th place. Watch the 71 of Andy Lally try to get onto pit road here on this tricky transition. And Lally goes around and misses the Fitch safety barrels at the end of pit road.
Heard Matt Yoakum use the term black ice earlier. I guarantee that's black ice down there.
And a couple of drivers have had, well, big swings since this pit stop. Martin Truex came in 6th. He's now 10th. Dale Earnhardt Jr. came in 7th. He's now back to 12th. Before these pit stops, Mark Martin back to 14th. So a lot of drivers with difficulties either on pit road or with the adjustments that were made.
I believe what happened to Junior was his car almost looked like it had flat tire. And I think they had the air pressure so low it took it about 4 or 5 laps for the tires to come in. Now he's starting to gain back some of the time he lost.
How about the leader stops, Larry?
Yeah, Darrell had mentioned he felt like that they held the 99 car a little bit for fuel. And if you notice right there, that's about a 1.5 seconds difference right there. And then if you look at the overall, that's roughly 2 seconds, and that's the reason he went basically from almost a second lead now, a little over a second behind Jimmy Johnson in the 48.
And see, that's the kind of thing a driver doesn't mind. If the crew chief says we're going to hold you a little longer to be sure we get you topped up, you're okay with that.
Jimmy Johnson, Carl Edwards, And the Richard Childress cars, 3, 4, 5, Boyer, Harvick, and Burton. Paul Menard is 2 laps down, but suddenly the Childress Chevys have come to the top 5.
Well, the one that's really come to life as we see Richard Childress there, the owner of those 4 cars, Jeff Burton. You said it earlier in the show, Mike, that he would be a factor. Started back in 16th in that 31 car. It's just like they've been chipping away at it all day long. They've been solid on the racetrack. They've been solid on pit road.
Sprint users have spoken. Let's ride shotgun with Kyle Busch. Brought to you by Sprint and HTC Evo 4G.
Coming off turn 4 here. There we are at the line, just like a little short straightaway. Not in the gas very long. Coast it down in here. Pick up the throttle as much as you possibly can. Try to get as much speed through the middle of the corner. Helps corner exit. Again, listen how just out of the throttle so quickly. Hook the bottom. Slide up here a little bit. Dime in the corner. Up in the middle. Down. Back off. Quick little lap around this joint.
Fuel your inner NASCAR fan with live in-car audio and real-time stats on Sprint Cup Mobile and the new HTC Evo 4G, only from Sprint at sprint.com/speed. 304 laps complete, 96 to go. Regan Smith has worked hard to stay on the lead lap all day in that number 78. Had some electrical problem where all the gauges went blank on him about 50 laps ago, and he's trying to stay out of the clutches of Jimmy Johnson.
He's back in the 19th position right now. Puts that 78 car Regan Smith a lap down. We'll have 18 cars on the lead lap. The 2 Penske Dodges of Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski, the next 2 drivers in front of that leader, Jimmy Johnson.
How about our point leader, Steve?
Mike, on the last stop, they took half a pound of air out of the right rear tire. Now, Carl Edwards just told crew chief Bob Osborne, I need to be tightened up all the way around the racetrack now.
Darrell, it just sounds like every driver out there looking for more rear grip, hooking those rear tires up, especially on acceleration off the corner.
We heard that in a couple of end cars. When you come up out of the hole here up on the straightaway, really big tendency to spin the rear tires. When the rear tires spin, the car jumps sideways. That gets your attention, I can tell you.
Another 2 laps. Carl Edwards will be right there with Jimmy Johnson.
He's been chipping away about 3 to 4 tenths of a second per lap. You can see him. He's all over the back bumper, that 48 car of Johnson's.
Boy, you see it right there, Larry. I mean, Carl can just run the center of the corner, which is usually what the 48's so good at, but he's met his match today in that 99 car.
Edwards' last couple of laps are 4 tenths of a second faster than Johnson's, and he is there.
You see Jimmy, the back of his car stepped out just a little bit. Carl gave him a little room here to get back, get going again, but Carl's car is definitely much better than Jimmy's right now.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson basically told Chad Knaus a few laps ago, I'm out of control right now.
And that's the thing I love about great drivers. That car it doesn't look out of control. I mean, yeah, it's moving around a little bit, but great drivers adjust to their car and make it look like the car is fine, but in fact, he's got his hands full.
Let's just nice and smooth. Take a deep breath. If we need to let him by, just let him by. Got plenty of time left.
It's pretty hard to. I never was real good at taking a deep breath here. Mostly little quick ones.
I was going to say gasping for breath.
That's right.
I noticed that up here in the booth as well.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean,
He's coming. I can't breathe now.
You're up on your toes the whole time here. But now Edwards has backed off a little bit from Johnson. And on the right side of your screen, Martin Truex, Kyle Busch.
It's like Kyle Busch in that 18 group. They can run hard for about 15 to 20 laps after they put 4 fresh tires, and then it starts to fade on him.
Yeah, his car yesterday wasn't a typical Kyle Busch car. Wasn't that great yesterday. He ended up with a second place finish because of the big wreck. But he said yesterday, we just haven't got the right setup for here this weekend. And it's showing again today.
With 89 laps to go, Carl Edwards has reeled in Jimmy Johnson, but you don't want to bet against the Dominator at Dover.
Don't bet against Jimmie Johnson. Not on this track. Stay tuned to NASCAR on Fox.
The FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks is sponsored by Dodge. Dodge, never neutral. By Subway. Subway keeps Carl Edwards running all day. Subway, the official training restaurant of Carl Edwards. And by Warner Brothers Pictures, The Hangover Part 2. In theaters, May 26th.
Wham, bam. Carl Edwards got into Clint Bowyer, racing for second and third in turn number 2. Bowyer paid the price, went up toward the wall, but did not hit it.
Bowyer's going to have to get rid of that sticker on the back of his car.
Which one?
Hit me here. Because he gets, I can't believe how many people lean on that man. Look at that.
Carl had a run on the bottom as Bowyer wiggled, and they got together.
Darrell, almost a case of one going up and one coming down, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, it's certainly not, there's nothing intentional there, but that's just how edgy these cars are right now.
Now, 2 laps sooner, Carl was going for the lead on Jimmie Johnson, and when this happened, Bowyer was able to close right up.
One thing I like what I'm seeing, though, Jimmie Johnson was moving around on the racetrack. He found a little grip up a little higher than what he's been running, but he lost it right there. See, watch him battle here on the outside. He's found a little grip out here. Fights back.
Found a lot of grip out there.
No, it seemed like he moved. You know, we've been saying all along, it's what I've been thinking, that somebody needs to find a little better place to run than right around the bottom if that's giving them such a problem. Maybe Jimmie discovered that because he has pulled away from those guys.
So back live, Johnson has a 1-second lead on Edwards, and Bowyer is now 2 seconds back. Just before we came back from commercial, it was almost 3 cars under a blanket for the lead.
Yeah, but Jimmie Johnson has found a nice little groove. He got up off the bottom, which is kind of unusual for him. He's found some groove up in the middle of the racetrack, some grip, and he's able to pull away from Carl.
But even though Jimmie Johnson in the 48's leading, Carl Edwards in the 99's running second, we saw what happened to Clint Bowyer just a few laps ago. He is definitely one of the quickest cars, quickest drivers on the racetrack right now.
But it seems like when one of these cars that's been up front here, when it takes off, does something weird, it makes the tires mad. And they have to back up and regroup. And it's like these tires don't want to be slid around like that.
A week from tomorrow, live on Speed, Bobby Allison will be inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame, joining Richard Petty. Between them, they have 14 victories here, 7 apiece. Jimmie Johnson is trying to tie them for most career wins at Dover. If he wins today, it will be his 7th.
Now, we only have 75 laps to go, and we're only about 25 laps away from what will be another set of green flag pit stops for these drivers.
Jeff Burton in 5th place, 7 seconds back. Dick?
He is having the best run of the year, Jeff Burton is, and why not? Last year he finished second in both races here at Dover. Their strategy always at Dover is to set the car up for the tail end of the race. They don't worry about the first 200 or 300 laps. It's that last 100 laps. They didn't go as wild as they ordinarily do because of the threat of rain, but they still have used that as the strategy. And in several of the recent laps, Burton has heard from his spotter or his crew chief, Todd Barrier, that he has turned the fastest lap on the racetrack.
Thanks, Dick. Here we go for the lead once again, and they're about to catch the 2 Penske cars. Keselowski and Busch battling each other as the leaders close in. Who's going to get there first?
Once again, that outside line that Jimmie has found certainly works to his advantage off of turn 2 that time by.
Yeah, Carl Edwards is fast through the middle right there, but Jimmie Johnson in the 48's able to keep it wound up, fall right back in front of him as they get to the straightaway.
Well, the corners are like a funnel. I mean, great big in the middle, but then they come down to single file just about getting out of the corner here. And that's what Carl's dealing with right now. He gets that good run through the middle one time here, he probably cleared Jimmie.
And I don't believe those 2 Penske boys, Brad Keselowski and Kurt Busch, they're not going to just roll over. They're going to do everything they can to stay on this lead lap.
Busch running 19th, Keselowski 18th with 71 to go. And here come the leaders. Busch way up high to give him plenty of room.
I tell you what, we've seen out of these cars, the way they're sliding around, slipping all over the place, and Carl and Jimmy here racing as hard as they are. I mean, that's pretty impressive, Larry. Those two cars are not handling perfect, but they're able to race each other here as hard as they are. It's pretty impressive.
Kasey Kahne off pace and up toward the wall, turn 1 and 2.
Caution. He's on the top.
Flat left front on Kasey Kahne.
Where's the leader?
And
the leader's already gone past. We're stopped at turn 2.
But that is definitely a huge break for Brad Keselowski in that 2 Penske car.
He and Kurt Busch will probably be the free pass car. Kahne was 8th. And now goes a lap down. So we'll restart with 18 lead lap cars.
Like, I'm not sure it's it's not a left front. It's,
I agree. Now that he stopped, Darrell.
There's something else a myth here.
It smells weird though. It smells like it blew up, but.
Just remember, he had some electrical problems a little bit earlier in the race.
Fans in turn 2 get a nice photo op. Tough break for Kasey Kahne. So Kurt Busch is the free pass car. He'll be back on the lead lap when we restart.
Still have both though, right?
And Kahne can't get restarted here.
Yeah, he let it roll. It looked like he tried to pop the clutch and get it to take off.
The battery voltage still was okay, right?
Yeah, man, it's at 13. It's at 12.8 right now.
Yeah, that should be fine. We'll let Smith.
All right, pit road is open. Let's begin with Krista.
Clint Bowyer was asked, how's your car? He said, it's good. They're not making any adjustments except for a water for the driver. He's getting a little parched. Steve.
Krista, Carl Edwards says, tighten me up. Just a half pound out of the right rear tire. Now, meanwhile, Kevin Harvick in the 29 car, same issue all day. Said I can use more grip. They're going to pull some tape off the grill and make an air pressure adjustment. Matt.
Jimmy Johnson changed his line, helped to balance the race car, though still out of control. Chad Canal's going to adjust with an air pressure change on this 48 machine. Solid stop so far.
For sure, Clint Bowyer's crew, they beat Carl Edwards' crew, so he'll gain that 1 spot. I believe he's going to beat the 48 crew of Jimmy Johnson's as well. Picks up 2 spots on that stop.
Jimmy couldn't get going. He's just sitting there smoking the tires, couldn't get going.
Great pit stop for Clint Bowyer, and it's put him perhaps in position to win here in Delaware.
The FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks on Fox is sponsored by FedEx. We understand you need reliable shipping solutions. FedEx. Time for an AT&T race break and checking the highlights. 65 laps to go. Clint Bowyer leads Jimmy Johnson and Carl Edwards. In fact, they've led Jimmy and Carl all but 11 laps in this race total. The Monster Mile and the rain, not a problem here in Dover, Delaware. On lap 108, well, problems for David Reagan, hoping to be a first-time career winner. Pit road an adventure for many. A.J. Allmendinger in that same boat with engine problems and had to head to the garage, done for the day. But Jimmy Johnson, who led 96 of the first 100 laps, and then Carl Edwards battling, as those two have battled much of the day, including Carl Edwards tapping Bowyer with a nice save, bringing out that last caution moments ago and an engine problem for Kasey Kahne, taking him out of things. By the way, Richard Childress Racing, they've won only one of the last 35 Dover races, but they have their first leader of the day. Let's look forward with pit stops and don't necessarily have to stop again.
No, they can possibly go the distance right now as far as the fuel wind is concerned, but I think this restart is going to be very important. We saw in Saturday's race how hectic it gets. All these guys riding behind him like Jeff Burton, Kevin Harvick, Matt Kenseth, even Dale Earnhardt Jr., they know it's time to go, so I think this restart is going to be real critical.
And checking the current standings for the fastest pit crew and AT&T customers, you can find out the final race standings as soon as the checkered flag drops. AT&T, the nation's fastest mobile broadband network, and getting faster with 4G. Let's rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
Getting ready for the race, for the restart. Bowyer took the high side, Darrell. What do you think?
I think it worked out real well because he is gone, baby.
And he got a great jump.
Yeah, he got a great jump. So, but I think Jimmy was not really up on his game right there when the Boyer took off.
And Montoya didn't go. He's really stacked him up toward the back as he falls toward the tail end of the line. Also, Regan Smith in the garage, broken track bar on his Chevrolet. They'll try to repair that and get him back in the race.
You know, broken track bar, and yesterday I heard some of the guys saying that they were bending lower control arms. People, you just don't realize how much pressure is put on those right side tires and that right front suspension on this kind of a racetrack.
Paul Menard in trouble off turn number 2.
Yeah, he's
front end damage.
He's looking for a place to hide here because he's got trouble.
4,500 this time.
And he'll come to the pits. Let's show you why from Greg Biffle's onboard camera.
Now, you need it behind Jamie.
You talked about that, Mike. Montoya.
He was trying to get up and out of the way with a problem, and he couldn't get out of Menard's way fast enough.
Yeah, Montoya still has some sort of problem, Mike. He is struggling.
A lot of damage for Menard.
You know, I want to follow up on what Chris Myers just asked Jeff Hammond about fuel to go to the end. Absolutely, the teams can make it to the end, but we were also told that Carl Edwards' team told him, think about saving fuel under this caution, because as we know we had yesterday and last week at Darlington, possibility of a green-white checker.
Yeah, and I think they've been thinking about fuel all day, Larry, because that one stop where they held him extra long to be sure they got him all the way filled up. So, yeah, Bob Osborne been thinking about fuel pretty much all day.
Look at Kyle Busch. Started 43rd. Has methodically worked his way up to 6th. He's got Harvick behind him in 7th, but this is the highest in the running order Kyle has been all day.
You don't think they're getting down to the end of the race and they're starting to look for each other, do you? Harvick and Kyle?
I wouldn't suggest that.
You wouldn't think that at all, would you?
Not yet. The trouble with Juan Montoya is we now have Edwards and Johnson close for 2nd. And these two have swapped the lead back and forth 9 times today. But to lead again, they're going to have to track down Clint Boyer.
Carl just cannot make that pass on the bottom, Larry. Just need the whole racetrack, and it's not there when Jimmy runs that high line.
The reason Montoya was trying to get out of the way down in turn 1 was his car hung in 3rd gear on the restart. He could not get it to shift to high gear.
He's got a lot of rear damage now. The whole right rear of the car is torn off.
2nd place again. Here comes Carl. And here comes Jimmy right back at him.
That is treacherous racing right there, man. If Carl's car happens to break loose a little bit, woe be unto Jimmy Johnson, because they will be together and in a wall.
But the amazing thing is these two drivers doing this swapping back and forth, they're still keeping tempo lap time wise with our leader Clint Boyer in the 33.
However, Jeff Burton is closing on them, and so is Matt Kenseth. It may be a 4-car battle for 2nd here in a minute.
Company is coming. There's a bunch of guys back here that are starting to really come to the top. Burton, Kenseth, Kyle's got a pretty good car right now. Harvick's back here not too far back. We got some guys really grouping up here for a great finish.
And add some fellows who have run well during the day, like Truex in 8th, Earnhardt in 9th, Ambrose in 10th.
Boy, they're making me nervous racing off a corner like that. Carl down under Jimmy Johnson. It's just so hard to control that car when you're down there like that.
Kenseth moves through for 4th.
Mike, I go back to what I said at the top of the day. Now is when you get both hands and feet up on that steering wheel, because quite honestly, the trends say we may not see another caution. We may go to the end of this thing.
Now, these two are so even.
This is pretty much there when you say, dude, I've done all 4 of you. I can do it. The rest's going to be up to you.
You got what you got.
Edwards breaks through for 2nd, but look in his mirror. Matt Kenseth is coming. Kenseth is the fastest car on the racetrack at black number 17 right now. We'll go to the garage where Matt Yoakum caught up with Casey Kane.
First, an electrical issue. Casey, motor issue, have you out?
Yeah, we had a great Red Bull Toyota. Car was fast. I was really loose. We kept working on it, and we got up there, and that's fall back on the runs. There's a lot of rubber on the track. They're coming off the tires, so you get sliding around a lot. But early on, it's like something was wrong on restarts. When I get about 6,000-7,000, it would stop. And I over-revved it one time trying to get it to go, get it back to 2nd and go. And I think that probably has something to do with why the engine let go. It's probably a little bit my fault. but it wasn't running. So I don't know, it's just kind of a bad deal.
Thanks, Matt. Kasey Kahne out of the race. Clint Bowyer out front by 0.7 of a second. Carl Edwards trying to chase him down. Jimmie Johnson has led half the race, but he now finds himself in third, 1.4 seconds back. 50 laps to go in Dover. .43 laps to go in the FedEx 400, benefiting Autism Speaks on the concrete mile at Dover, Delaware. Only 5 quick cautions today. 2 for action. Joey Logano at lap 20, and Kasey Kahne lost an engine at lap 330. Otherwise pretty trouble-free. And Clint Bowyer has come from also ran and almost lapped to now leading 24 laps of this race. Half a second over Carl Edwards and 1.5 up on Jimmie Johnson, who has faded just a bit.
I think Carl will be there in just a matter of time. Carl has got a great race car. And Clint got a good restart there, got out on Carl, but he's slowly nibbling away here at his lead, and he'll be there in just another lap or two.
Matt Kenseth 4th, Chip Burton 5th, Kyle Busch 6th. Kevin Harvick has closed up on Busch. They're only a couple of tenths apart. Then Truex, Earnhardt, and Ambrose, the top 10. Regan Smith slow on the apron down the front straightaway. Will not be a problem. Will stay under green.
Regan's got a problem. I don't know. Somehow I'm off turn 4 here, and he dropped to the apron.
Well, remember, they had been to the garage area for repairs to the track bar that holds the rear end in place in the rear of that car.
You know, I can't tell you enough what this place feels like. It really does feel like a roller coaster ride when you're driving here. You do come up, you see how you come up that hill right there? I mean, that is a huge uphill climb when you're coming up out of the hole. And that's where the car gets really light.
Oh, trouble, turn 4.
Montoya's
right
around.
in front of the leaders, too.
Come on. Hold the brake.
Oh, man, it's a good thing he held the brake.
Hold the brake.
That will bring the caution out for the 6th time.
I know you're there. You can easily keep it.
Juan Pablo Montoya, turn 4. Just in front of the leaders.
He's got an incredible amount of damage to the right rear of this car, and these cars depend on that right side for air and everything else, and he doesn't have anything there to hold him, and he's been really struggling to hang on to this thing for the last several laps. But here's where he does something really, I mean, his spotter's telling him hold the brake, but look what happened if he hadn't held the brake right here. Look who he would have taken out.
Boom.
That was looking that way.
Been a tough day for Montoya.
Well, this could be the most important pit stop for these drivers today, because this could be the final stop.
2 tires or 4? What do you think?
I think with 30-something laps to go, I want me 4 tires on this car.
You better, unless you're back about 15th.
Krista.
And Clint Bowyer does want 4. He also wants no adjustments. He knows his car is really good. His crew got the job done last stop. Dick?
And Matt Kenseth is asking for some minor chassis adjustments. The question is 2 tires versus Steve, 2 for Rick Kenseth.
Carl Edwards said little loose coming to you. They're going to get 4 tires and a wedge adjustment for the 99. Matt?
Jimmie Johnson chasing his 7th win here. Dover says the car is still free. Not any better. Chad Canals calls for another chassis adjustment on this 48.
Matt Kenseth will get off pit road first with those 2 tires, along with Dale Earnhardt Jr., Brian Vickers, Jeff Gordon, Marcus Ambrose. One number you won't see on that sheet is the number 5. Mark Martin did not pit.
Got to do what you got to do, man. You got to roll the dice. I mean, isn't that a casino across the street over there, across the backside of the racetrack?
But quite honestly, Mark Martin in that 5 falls right in the category that you talked about. He was back there well outside the top 10. We've got 18 drivers on the lead lap. You know what? If you follow the leader, all you'll do is follow the leader.
Hey, Mac, how did that fellow win the race last week?
I think stayed out.
Well, there's a casino right across the backstretch as part of the Dover Downs complex, but you don't have to go there to gamble. You can do it right here with 37 laps to go. A lot of action coming your way on Fox next Saturday night.
Under the lights on Fox Saturday Baseball. Oh, my goodness. This ball is gone. Oh, what a shot.
How about that?
Another one for the highlight reel. What a great catch. Prime time on Fox Saturday Baseball.
I love interleague play. You know, the Cubs haven't played at Fenway Park in a century. Not since they were in the World Series against the Red Sox, and yes, they lost that one too. The lovable losers.
And you still remember.
Well, no, I wasn't there, but I'm a lifelong Cubs fan, and you know, one of these days.
Well, one thing I'll say about this little pit situation here, some staying out and some taking 2 tires, this changes everything. Because look where our 2 and 3 fastest cars are now. They're way back in the pack.
Clint Boyer is 8th. Carl Edwards is 9th. Jimmie Johnson 11th. Mark Martin was the only car on the lead lap to stay out and not pit. He was 14th when the caution flag came out. He is now the leader, and we listened in on their decision.
If they come, you want to stay? If they come, let's stay. All for it. That way it keeps all these lappers down for taking wave around. 10-4.
Well, another advantage to staying out.
That's right. From 14th to 1st. But Darrell, this is not a 2 or a 5 lap shootout from here. There's 35 laps to go.
I think they're doing what we've seen so many times. They're just gambling on they're going to get a better finish by staying out than they would if they'd have come down pit road.
The driver I like right now is Matt Kenseth in that 17. He at least has those 2 fresh right side tires. We've talked about it and talked about it. He's going to be out there where he gets all the downforce on the nose of that race car.
So the whole lead lap has changed. Mark Martin with no tires opposite Matt Kenseth with 2. Earnhardt and Vickers in row 2. Gordon and Ambrose in row 3. Kurt Busch with Clint Boyer. Edwards and Brad Keselowski the top 10. Jimmie Johnson mired in 11th with Kyle Busch. Jeff Burton, Martin Truex, Kevin Harvick, Hamlin, Labonte, and Rudiman. Those are the lead lap cars. Rudiman got the free pass, and we're ready to go with 34 to go.
Right now, Mark Martin better be sure he's got his tires all good and clean because he don't want to spin them on his start here.
Green flag. Good run for Mark Martin. He gets away.
He'd get a great run through 1 and 2 off the corner down the back straightaway.
Man, look back in there, Larry. Kyle Busch, he's just on the right side of your picture. He just passed 5 cars going into turn 3.
You sound surprised.
Unbelievable.
Saw him do it yesterday, saw him do it Friday here.
But quite honestly, he's one of the first drivers in that pack there, along with Clint Boyer in the 33, that has 4 fresh tires.
3rd place, Ambrose underneath Vickers. Tentatively, and here comes Boyer, ready to pounce. Kyle Busch with him.
There goes Matt. Matt Kenseth just goes by Mark, and Mark did what Mark always does. He gave up just a little on the straightaway to let Matt get in front of him so they don't lose anything off the corner. But what a jam off of turn 2. Holy smoly.
Ambrose had to lift to keep from getting into Vickers, and here came Kyle. As the 18 goes to the bottom, he wants 3rd place.
Kyle Busch took full advantage of that in that 18 car. He just drove by those 2 guys.
You know why? He never hesitates. He always is going, always forward.
Well, Ambrose is coming right back after him on the bottom. Now he's after Vickers. Ambrose and Boyer coming, along with Earnhardt, Truex, and the 99 Edwards.
Yeah, Kyle drove the car in a little too hard that time and pushed up the hill. He needs to slow his corner speed entry down just a little bit, or he's going to lose to Marcos Ambrose right here. He's driving in the corner a little too aggressive.
Meanwhile, Carl Edwards and Jimmie Johnson can't get out of traffic and can't get up here to challenge. They're all the way back at 9th and 11th. As Boyer draws a bead on Vickers. That'll be for 5th place.
Yeah, I think 4 tires will prevail for every driver. The one driver that we're going to keep a watch on with 29 laps to go, Matt Kenseth, our leader, out front right now.
I just don't. There's such a few laps to go, Larry. I think that 2-tire call was perfect. I don't know if the 99, the 48, or any of the 4-tire guys can get to them before the race is over with.
Matt?
Mike Johnson on Ford tires up to 11th, led the most laps. Some debate about that call of 2 versus 4.
He's never had to deal
All those
with
guys
this
coming
today.
on 2, should we have just changed to? Can we stop coming?
Yeah, but we were a little late in. I'm sorry. Made a mistake. And you got 4 tires and you're still in the top 10. So gold is just a finish in the top 10.
Johnson is 10th. He's 4 seconds off the lead as Ambrose and Kyle Busch continue to dust it up here for 3rd.
And this right here is great news for Matt Kenseth and that 17 car out there leading. He loves the fact that these guys are going at it side by side.
He does, and I know another guy that does too, Mark Martin, who is in 2nd place right now and holding his own very well. What a great call.
And who was Matt Kenseth's mentor when he came to Roush Racing for many years? Mark Martin.
I think Mark's just really, really happy with the call they made and how his car is running at this point. If he can hang on, that's the question.
Denny Hamlin, Jeff Gordon back at 15th position. Jamie McMurray 2 laps down with them. .25 laps to go in Dover. In the FedEx 400, benefiting Autism Speaks, Matt Kenseth leading by 1 second.
This is the Kyocera Echo from Sprint, the first dual touchscreen smartphone. 2's better than 1. Ask Double Dream Hands Man, who just released his latest tour de force, Double Dream Feet. With 2 screens, watch it and email it. Text it and tweet it. Let's make this masterpiece just as famous, twice as fast. And together, we can give one-hit wonders a second life. The Echo smartphone, only from Sprint.
You asked for it, America. Pizza Hut's $10 any deal is back. Any pizza, any size, any crust, any toppings is just $10 when you carry out. Are you ready? Because we are.
Pizza Hut's $10 any deal is back. Any pizza, any size, any crust, any toppings is now just $10 when you carry out. Get all of your favorites for just $10 each. But hurry in, this deal is for a limited time only. Only at your Pizza Hut.
Meeting tomorrow in Dallas. We need to finish those projections, and I'll put the final presentation. Sally, I'm going to need 40 copies, obviously collated. And don't.
What's going on? When we're crunched for time, Brad combines office celebrations with official business. It's about efficiency. We can help. When you ship with FedEx, you can work right up to the last minute. Gives you more time to get stuff done. It's a good idea.
I need to speak with you privately. I found your resume on the printer. Everyone, I found your resume on the printer.
We understand. You need a partner who gives you more time. FedEx.
We hope you're enjoying today's presentation of NASCAR on Fox, the FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks. 21 laps to go. Jimmy Johnson has led 200 laps today from the pole. He is at 10th. Carl Edwards has led 117 laps. He is at 8th. Matt Kenseth is holding off Mark Martin by 1.2 seconds. The man on the move, Marcus Ambrose. He has caught Mark Martin for 2nd place, but just can't quite seem to be able to make the move to get by.
Boy, this strategy of taking 4 tires, I thought that would, we had enough laps that would probably pay off. Once again, we are fooled by these tires and how well they hold up and guys staying out. What great calls. I love it, man, when you gamble.
Yeah, Marcus Ambrose crew made the same call for him. 2 right side tires only.
Brad Keselowski battling Kevin Harvick and Jeff Burton. Back at 11th, 12th, and 13th place. To go.
Just looking at lap times, Mark Martin and Matt Kenseth both, Ambrose, they are the fastest 3 cars on the racetrack right now and pulling away just a skosh.
You know, Matt Kenseth, he made his first Sprint Cup Series start here at Dover in September of '98, subbing for Bill Elliott. Bill's dad had passed away. Matt always said, as a child, his hero was Dale Earnhardt Sr. He met him for the first time that day here at Dover in driver introduction.
Matt Kenseth finished 6th. Had a great race that day.
And he and Robbie Reiser, I mean, what a great job they did when Matt first came on the scene. They ran the 17, so I kind of got to keeping up with them and how they were doing, and they were great together.
You know who won the race that day? Mark Martin.
The numbers are coming together, aren't they?
I'm going to go across the street to the casino. I'm going to play 5 and 17.
I'll play 17 every time.
15 laps to go, and the margin is constant first to second. And third place Ambrose again is there, but just can't close any further. It's Kyle Busch that's beginning to encroach on Ambrose, third place position. And then Vickers and Boyer, 5th and 6th.
And Chris Devoda pointed out that this race a year ago was the first race that Brian Vickers had missed after being diagnosed with blood clots. Said that this race meant so much to him to come back here. Same situation as our leader. 2 right side tires on that last stop. There he is in the top 5, Brian Vickers.
In the first half of this race, we hardly saw Mark Martin, Brian Vickers, and Clint Boyer. And here they are, 2nd, 5th, and 6th.
And what happened to Mark Martin, Matt Yoakum pointed out to me on one of those earlier stops, they had a lug nut issue, lost about 8 positions, and just never could get the track position back.
Yeah, he's been running like 15th, 12th, 15th, 16th along in there all day long until that great pit call to keep him out.
Carl Edwards is on the verge of catching up Clint Boyer for 6th place. Carl's lap time, same as the leader, his teammate Matt Kenseth.
Things have really just settled in here a little bit. These guys start catching the back of the field, some of these lap cars. That could make things a little more difficult, but I don't really see the way the field's strung out. It's not going to be a big problem, I don't think.
But it definitely looks like the 2 drivers that's led over 300 laps of this race, Carl Edwards and Jimmie Johnson, because of taking 4 tires, may not even get a top 5 finish out of this thing.
And I think Chad Knaus, you heard him say it. He said, I think I may have made a mistake. And he apologized to Jimmy. We got the 20 car up against the wall. Don't think he hit it.
Just get to the bottom now.
10 laps to go as Joey Logano gets out of harm's way.
He did. He was into it. When I saw him, he was coming off. He hit it pretty hard, I think, over there in 3.
Right in front of our leader, Matt Kenseth.
Definitely.
And Logano makes it down the back straightaway, and he will be okay. That was a little close there for Boyer and Edwards.
Yeah, they were expecting Joey to stay right on the bottom, and the car pushed up the racetrack just a little bit. That could have been a bad deal.
This has been a great battle. Harvick, Earnhardt, Burton as they swap 10th place around. This could be the 2nd week in a row that Carl Edwards took 4 tires on the last pit stop and did not win.
I know we still have 8 laps to go, but when I think about our leader, Matt Kenseth, he would join Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick as the 2-time winners in 2011. We know how important that could be to make this chase with those 2 wild card spots.
If Matt wins today in the 17, that'll be his 20th win in car number 17. Pearson had 30 wins. I had 15, and that's a total of 65 wins if he wins today for car number 17. We were talking about the 43 in the opening of the show, how many wins that car number had. So some of those are just prolific when you think about it.
Passing Montoya with 7 to go. Montoya 7 laps down after the troubles he's had last.
It just takes everybody, you know, pulling together and everybody doing their thing to do what Matt Kenseth's been able to do this afternoon. Great call in the pits, 2 tires, good job on the track. Haven't heard Matt complain much all day long about his car.
Well, it's probably time for him to win here, Darrell. 3 times in the last 4 years here, Kenseth was the last leader passed by the driver who went to victory lane. Say it's his turn.
When I look at a couple of our drivers that are in the top 5 right now, this would be their first top 5 finish of 2011, Mark Martin and Brian Vickers.
And Jimmy Fennig there, great guy. Been in the sport a long time. He worked with Bobby Allison and others, just a super guy.
And he was Kurt Busch's crew chief when Kurt won the 2004 Sprint Cup Series championship. You mentioned Bobby Allison won the 1988 Daytona 500 with Bobby.
That was with Mark Martin for quite a while at Roush Racing. There's the gap, first to second. Kenseth to his one-time mentor, Mark Martin.
I know Kenseth winning races. You know, that's a great accomplishment for him, but I got to tell you, I am thoroughly impressed with the way that 5-car has hung on here at the end of this race.
And add to that list, Marcus Ambrose. It's not a question of if he'll win a Sprint Cup race, but when. He's long overdue, and drives like this one just get him closer and closer.
And we know in Finion the road course is coming as we see this battle continue to heat up between Clint Boyer and the 33, Carl Edwards in the 99 for 6. But Marcus Ambrose does not want to be known as a road racer. He wants to be known as a Sprint Cup Series driver.
You know, we looked at Carl Edwards there. You know, last week, white flag in the air. Last week, Carl had 2 tires. The other guy didn't have any. He said, I got this in the bag. Today, he had 4 tires. Some of the guys only took 2, some none. Thought he probably had it in the bag. Not to be.
Well, when Matt Kenseth ran his first Sprint Cup race right here at Dover, Mark Martin won it. Jimmy Fennig was the crew chief. Today, Jimmy Fennig's on the pit box for the winner of the FedEx 400 benefiting Autism Speaks. Matt Kenseth wins it. Here's Boyer and Edwards side by side. Boyer.
You know what, Boyer's screaming? He didn't wreck.
Good call there, man. Good call. Nice job. That was all you, buddy. That was great. Gosh, great job, guys. That was awesome. We overachieved this week, so thank you very, very much. Woo! Burn it down. Let's have some fun, fellas.
Matt Kenseth led twice today for 33 laps, including the final 32. He earns his 20th Sprint Cup win in his 411th start. He won it June 2006 here at Dover. It's his second win here, and it's his second win of 2011, which pretty much guarantees him into the chase for the Sprint Cup as long as he stays in the top 20 in the standings. It's the 9th win at Dover for Roush Fenway Racing. Mark Martin second, 2.1 seconds back. Marcus Ambrose right behind him. Kyle Busch, a nice rebound to 4th, and a great run for Brian Vickers, finishing 5th.
Matt Kenseth not on a lot of people's radar for today's race. Good thing the rain wasn't either. Smoking as he gets his second victory of the year, and it comes in his 17 Ford. Let's get out to Steve Burns in Victory Lane where the family is with Matt.
Big win for Matt Kenseth. Matt, what was the key to winning this race?
Well, 2 tires stopping, having a fast car, but I think Wiley X for jumping on the car this week, and Crown Royal. They were an honor this race. You know, as the major sponsor, we really appreciate them and Ford. And another big key was Doug Yates and them guys. Never thought I'd say I'd kiss a guy before, but if Doug Yates was here right now, I'd probably give him a kiss. We had so much horsepower today, and it made our job so much easier. So this team just did a great job, and just I'm blessed to be staying here. I can't believe it. We were going to do 4, and we got in the stall and decided to do 2, and that was the key.
Matt, was there any point in the race when you felt like, I mean, you knew you had a good race car, as you said, but was there a turning point or a key moment in the race?
Well, for me, the turning point was when the rubber built on the track. We were really good until it built on the track, and we were junk after it built on the track. I was so loose and had a hard time maneuvering around it. I just couldn't get the car to do what I wanted to do. And at the end, them short runs helped us because it kind of got the rubber cleaned off, and you could really race for about 15 laps until that yucky rubber would build up, and then you couldn't really maneuver anymore. So it was a key to be out front and to have a clean track at the end.
Enjoyed the win with your biggest fans.
Thanks. Yeah, it's the first one Kaylin's been to, but of course, since we don't win very often the last 2 years, but it's a day race, so I'm glad Kaylin's here, and Grace and Katie. That's pretty special for him to be here for me.
Congratulations, Matt.
Thank you.
And a big Packer fan. He didn't attend Super Bowl 45, obviously, because his wife giving birth, and the whole family is there, the latest edition as well. Meanwhile, Jimmy Johnson led 207 laps, and of course that 4-tire decision may have cost him. Let's find out. Matt Yoakum is with Jimmy Johnson.
207 laps led by Jimmie Johnson. Were you surprised that the 4 tires didn't help as much as they did?
I really was. I knew we were outnumbered once we came off the pit road and saw so many guys up on 2, and I think 1 or 2 that didn't stop. At that point, I knew we were kind of in trouble. The numbers don't work in your favor, especially at this track. So, really, there was a great race with the 33, the 99, and us, and we finished like 7th, 8th, and 9th, or whatever it was. So, we had a great day. We had a great race car, led a lot of laps, great stops on pit road. We're doing the things that we need to with this slow Chevrolet, and I would love to be over there in victory lane, but we'll have to come back and do that in the fall.
Exciting battle between yourself, Edwards, and Boyers there at one point on the restart.
Yeah, we were just racing. Even later in the run with the 99, track position is so important here. I let Carl go 4 or 5 times before that, and within a pit stop or 2 from the end, we're here to race, and it's time to race. So I hope the fans enjoyed it, and Carl and I both had a lot of fun running side by side.
All right, thanks, Jim.
All right, thank you. What about Mark Martin staying out? What about Carl Edwards, Jeff Hammond?
Well, I think Mark pretty much summed it up, was the fact that during that caution, they had nothing to lose. They had been marred back there in traffic all day long, and they needed to do something. Lance McGrewy's crew chief said, we're going to caution the win. We can make it on fuel. And it paid off for them. They were just trying to get a better finish than what they had, and it turned out to be almost a near-winning, call.
Let's check in with Dick Berggren, who is with Mark Martin.
Well, Mark Martin, how gutsy was that call to stay out toward the end of the race when everybody else pitted?
Well, kudos to Lance McGrew and everybody on this GoDaddy.com crew here. I want to give a shout out to all our supporters, CarQuest and Auto Parts and all the guys that support us. We ran good, but we were getting ready to finish 15th again. And it's been a shame. We ran that well a lot this year and finished 15th. And today it was just a great Dover race. I love this place.
So what's left in order for you to finish first?
We would have had to be a little bit faster.
Congratulations on a terrific run. Mark Martin finishing second today at Dover.
4 tires for Carl Edwards as well. Crazy finish to this thing. Were you surprised that a lot of guys took 2 like that?
I was surprised. I didn't think that many guys would take 2. And then I thought Bob's call for our Athletic Fusion was a good call. And it just didn't work. Those guys were screaming fast. Congrats to Matt and Wiley X. And I got to say hey to Mike Williams and his family. We lost Mike. He's a good friend of mine. I know he's watching over us today and had a good weekend overall. But, man, it was feeling real good there for a little while. I thought we were going to win this thing.
Exciting battles really throughout the race, especially with yourself, Jimmie Johnson, and Bowyer. But at one point it seemed like a lot of guys were dealing with patchy black ice.
Yeah, black ice. That's a term I haven't heard yet. But that's rubber buildup, and you drive down the corner, you could barely see it, and if you hit it, you knew you hit it. All right, it was sideways sliding up the racetrack, and I thought everybody did a really good job driving with those conditions, and it kind of made it fun. And Bowyer he did a really good job. I couldn't get him in there at the end. That's that dirt racer coming out.
Those dirt trackers still had a solid top 10 day here at Dover.
We'll hear from more drivers. Carl Edwards, the largest points lead, but Matt Kenseth, your winner today. He said his biggest influence in his Cup career, Mark Martin, who talked Jack Roush into hiring Matt Kenseth. We're live in Dover, Delaware, where Matt Kenseth is your winner. More in a moment.
$400 laps, man. This place will eat them up, spit them out. Spun it, hit the wall on pit road. Fired up and roll, bud. Fired up and roll. No caution, no caution. This is a tough pit road. I have nightmares about lapping that guy. Great work, guys. Great work. I think you got him. Woo! Smoked him. Loose. I said loose 17 laps ago.
And the unofficial results for the FedEx 400, benefiting Autism Speaks Matt Kenseth with his second win in the last 5 races, and Mark Martin right behind him. Kyle Busch, who did get near Kevin Harvick, but the two well-behaved, came from back of the pack all the way up to finish 4th.
Yeah, a solid run there by Brian Vickers, also in Clint Bowyer. I'm pretty sure he's happy just to finish the race because Jeff Burton, he had a pretty strong run today, along with Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah, Jr. finishing 12th, so that winless streak goes to 104. Ryan Newman, certainly in the top 10 in points, not much of a factor. Joey Logano and Tony Stewart had problems.
Oh, along with David Reagan, spun out on pit road. That really ended his day. But Tony Stewart, he never got going at all today. Probably the longest race ever for him at Dover.
Casey Kane, 36, with an engine problem, and that engine problem cost A.J. Allmendinger, who ran up front, started on the front row as we round out the results from the FedEx 400. And let's bring in Darrell, Larry, and Mike for some final thoughts on a really interesting race that in the end, Matt Kenseth led only 33 of the 400 laps but the most important ones at the end.
And we're still shaking our heads. Last Saturday night, we were sure that the car with 4 tires would win the 2-lap shootout over the car who took none. Today, with 30 laps to go, we're sure the car with 4 tires is going to beat Kenseth, who took 2, and Mark Martin, who didn't even bother to stop. We're wrong again. What's going on here?
Well, these races are just so unpredictable. But I do predict that will continue. So, anyway, no, today was fun, man. The racing was good. We had Carl and Jimmy up there dicing back and forth the whole way. Guys needed great finishes. Got them today. Matt Kenseth comes out of nowhere, wins the race. Mark Martin hangs on for a great finish. I thought it was a pretty exciting race.
Oh, it was a fun race to call, but Larry, do you need to rethink your whole race strategy with what's happened these last 2 weeks?
Well, I think Carl Edwards said it in his interview. It wasn't the fact of 2 tires. It was the fact of the number of drivers that took 2 tires. Because when Carl Edwards looked up, just like Clint Boyer, Jimmy Johnson, 3 drivers that pretty much dominated this race, they had 3 to 4 rows of drivers in front of them that had those 2 tires, and there just were not enough laps to get out there and catch them.
I got to take care of some business, guys. Happy birthday, Mom. I almost forgot. Happy birthday, Mom.
Glad you got that in. Well, let's meet with a fellow who's almost as happy as your mom today because he has tied his best oval track finish in NASCAR. He's with Krista.
Earlier this weekend, Marcus Ambrose said this would be the weekend your luck would change. How close are you to that first win?
We've been fast all year. We've just had some bad luck. You know, this is our second top 5. Best result so far for the Stanley team. You know, we've been through some tough times. Just learning my new crew chief, Todd Parrott. He made a great call, by the way, at the end there for 2 tyres. Just really proud of my team, proud of my guys, proud of Rich Petty Motorsports. You know, we're coming. AJ was super fast today too, but he lost the motor, so bad luck to him, but really proud of our day.
And he told his team, our first win is coming soon.
Thanks, Krista. And Marcus Ambrose, who said growing up he was a Richard Petty fan, even more of one, and obviously frustration for Petty Motorsports when Allmendinger went out, but Ambrose with a solid finish here at the Monster Mile. Jeff, as we take a look at points now through 11 of 36 races that matter, and Carl Edwards increases by 24 points, the largest points lead so far this year. And Jimmy, Kyle Jr., that's all pretty much the same. Look, Tony Stewart's gone to 10th. Mark Martin has worked his way up to 11th.
Well, I think the main thing right now, if you take a look at Tony Stewart, he's barely hanging on. Now, Mark's 11th, but you got to start looking at guys with wins and how that's going to affect everybody. We know Jeff Gordon will wind up being that 11th position, and that means Greg Biffle would wind up being 12th, and Denny Hamlin wouldn't get a chance to race.
Yeah, you got to be in that top 20, and then the wins help you over the points. But important for Matt Kenseth, his second win of the season already to join Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. So that, you would think, would assure you of a spot in the chase.
But they're running so solid right now. That's the other thing. Have got to 2 wins. That's going to allow this team to be more creative, take more chances over the next series of races leading into Richmond. And then when really the cutoff comes in, they have an opportunity now to experiment.
Kyle Busch is standing by with our Dick Bergman.
Kyle Busch from dead last with a car that you had to change the engine on, banged into the wall in practice. How did you wind up 4th today?
I don't know, but, we definitely started behind this weekend with the engine failure and then, getting knocked into the wall there. All my fault. I got the boys behind, but, they persevered and worked through it and did what they could to give me a good piece. And I don't know that it was very good out there for anybody, really. It seemed like it was really, really hard to pass, and a lot of guys really struggled with the rubber buildup on the surface. So we did, including. But if you can make up ground on them restarts, man, you had to try to do the best you could. And fortunately for me, I was in the right lane, and I could do that. I made the outside work, and, the M&M's Camry for the first couple laps after a restart was pretty good, but then it just seemed like you couldn't go anywhere. So we gave it all we got. We came from a long ways back, and the guys on pit road helped me out too. So all in all, we're happy to get out of here with a 4th. That's pretty good, and considering now we can go to the All-Star race in Charlotte.
How physically demanding was today's race?
It'll wear on you for sure. It makes you think, it makes you work, and the thinking part was a lot harder to do today than it has been in the past at this place, but you're already at a physical demand, with the way you're sawing on the wheel back and forth, left and right, and trying to miss the rubber, sliding over the rubber, not meaning to, and just you're, as some of us put the term, your butt and elbows up in the air, man, so you just try to get all you can get.
Kyle Busch finishing 4th today after starting dead last following an engine change in practice.
Sounding more and more like a mature champion. We made a big deal in the pre-race because that's our job. That's what we do with him and Kevin Harvick. They were near each other. They played it smart. They focused on the racetrack, adhered to NASCAR's advice to them.
Well, I think they understood the big picture right now, Chris. I mean, that's the big thing. They talked about it. Both of them did, that they need to come in here. They need to learn something. They need to leave here scoring some points and getting information that will help them when they come back here in the fall. And I think both these teams were very strong today. Kevin Harvick was solid, along with Kyle Busch, and they basically said, look, let's just run our races and leave each other alone for a while.
You know, Regan Smith had the great story last week. Well, Brian Vickers, who overcame heart surgery, was out of racing last year, back racing this year, an impressive finish for him. Let's check in with Chris Devoda, who's with Brian.
1 year ago, Brian Vickers was in a hospital. Are you back?
It definitely feels like it. You know, everybody kept asking me about Darlington, my last race last year. Going back to Darlington was special, but being able to finish this race and be here, thinking back a year ago, laying in the hospital bed watching this race on TV, it feels good. And also to have a good run. I mean, the Red Bull team did a great job. Early incident, trying to avoid Kevin at the start. The guys got the car fixed, and we were quick all day. We just needed track position.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Krista and Brian. We did try to catch up with Clint Bowyer. Didn't feel like talking today. Certainly frustration. He's had 2 second-place finishes this year, and, you know, we know what he went through on Saturday, too.
Right. I mean, this was kind of like a tough day. I mean, I think he had a car that he felt like he could win with, and he's probably upset about the call there at the end. I mean, after you have a tough weekend like you did on Saturday, sometimes when you feel like Sunday kind of slipped through your fingers, sometimes the best thing to do is just to leave. But, you know, we talked a minute ago about Brian Vickers. You realize how difficult it was for him. He bounced that car off the wall early part of this race and still was able to recover, didn't lose his focus, and come back and made a really solid finish right there with 2 tires.
A trend with the world's best drivers of overcoming some difficulty, even Kyle Busch working his way to the front. And Matt Kenseth, this seemed like a race where the crew chief had to make calls, and Darrell and Larry Mike broke down. There's really no formula for what's working in each case.
I think everybody finds themselves in a totally different situation. The 99, the 48 to 33, they thought the smartest thing to do, put 4 tires on, and even though somebody, you know, elects to put 2, you'd be able to drive right back by them. They had enough laps to do that. But so many guys gambled, including Mark Martin taking no tires, that it really, I think, you know, changed their game plan. And Chris, in the end, we found out there shouldn't be a game plan. It's whatever you have to do to make the best out of the situation. We saw that at Darlington a week ago when Regan Smith wound up winning a race by staying out. I think this is really going to play with a lot of crew chiefs' heads as well as drivers as we move into the rest of the season. What they're going to tell us right now is that, hey, there is nothing certain. You just kind of got to go with it.
All right, coming up, a tweet from Trevor Bayne and Matt Kenseth, who snapped a winless streak of 76 races earlier in the year. Now he's got 2 victories. More in a moment. Promotional considerations provided by .39-year-old Matt Kenseth wins for the 2nd time this year, and from young Trevor Bayne, the 20-year-old Daytona 500 winner, as Matt talks with Kyle Petty and the folks over at Speed. We had a tweet from Trevor earlier in the day, said he got out of church driving back to North Carolina. He was cleared by doctors. They wanted a second opinion to double check. He's going to test. They're optimistic he'll be ready to go for the All-Star race. But bigger picture here, Jimmie Johnson, 5 straight. He's going for 6 straight. Carl Edwards is your points leader. This was a place where Jimmy usually found victory lane. Is he still the guy to beat?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he pretty much showed, Chris, that they know how to get this car around this racetrack. There was a missed call, and it's the only reason why the results turned out that you say Chad Knaus made a missed call, if you can believe that, is the results. Otherwise, that car was underneath him. He and Carl Edwards put on a great show. He led a lot of laps. This is what you need to be. You need to be competitive, because all of a sudden that call in the fall may wind up being 2 tires for these 2 guys, and they'll have to settle it between themselves when it really matters for the chase. So Jimmie Johnson is in good shape right now, but the guy that worries me more than anybody else has got to be Denny Hamlin. I think that team, they need to make something happen, because they don't have a win, and they didn't run that well today either.
After 8 wins last year. So a lot of racing coming up. I think Saturday night, primetime baseball, Mets and Yankees interleague play, Cubs and Red Sox, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, and they'll keep you up to date on all the other action that's going on. Now, to get back on the track with things, you have the All-Star race on Speed, and then 2 weeks from tonight, the Coca-Cola 600. And by the way, that was Matt Kenseth's first career win. Came at the Coke 600 back in 2000.
Well, it's these type of racetracks, Dover as well as Charlotte Motor Speedway, are right in his wheelhouse, and don't be surprised if he doesn't go down there and be a factor not only the All-Star race but that 600-miler.
Tonight on Fox, The Simpsons, it's animation domination. And you'll laugh out loud throughout the evening. 4 different teams have won the last 4 races, and already Roush Fenway Racing, speaking of the Red Sox, as we were moments ago, with 3 wins this season, and of course Carl Edwards, the points leader, and we have yet to see a pole winner pull into victory lane this season. For Darrell, Larry, and Mike, for Jeff Hammond and our entire production crew, and thanks to our troops watching around the world, the great NASCAR fans that they are, I'm Chris Myers, and tune in 2 weeks from tonight for the Coca-Cola 600 NASCAR on Fox on Memorial Day weekend. We thank you for watching and glad you're a part of NASCAR on Fox.
Boogity, boogity, boogity! Let's go racing, boys!
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm having fun. Clear, looking inside. So we got to get the car in the track somehow.